The chair will note that on the way in, we saw a rainbow.
Fabulous.
Which one end of which was not here.
It looked like it was here.
But it's out there somewhere.
There were two double rainbow.
Yeah, we never see these things. But,
It was so powerful, it was doubling up.
Yeah,
So there was one forward, and there was a light one sitting above it.
it was quite something, yeah.
Unbelievable.
I saw a three-tiered one time. That's really something.
I actually saw a fog bowl.
Nate Weeks is not here, but he's coming very shortly, so we'll probably have to skip over item number 1 and move on to item number 2. Discussion and vote on requesting a scope of work for baseline monitoring from SMAST. And Jerry can talk about it, Virginia can talk about it, she wasn't here. But basically this is a follow-up on our last meeting where the SMAST representative came and spoke about the kind of monitoring they had been doing and would be doing and could be doing. And I think the consensus of the committee was that we did not need to reinvent the wheel here, that we were better off contracting with the entity that's been doing it right along and adding to the work that they've done in the past as it proves appropriate for the different alternatives that we're studying. So any discussion on that? Perhaps a motion to request the scope of work for baseline monitoring from SMAST?
Yeah, I
Move and
Seconded.
Okay, any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, Nate's still not being here. We should move on to, are we ready for Eco-Toilets?
We have the
Mr. Sub-Chairman, or whatever, Subcommittee Chairman?
We have the Eco-Toilet demonstration project proposal.
Okay. Everyone in the committee has a copy?
We've spent several sessions on this, and I want to thank Mike for putting up with us and all the changes that we were trying to make and trying to do his level best to introduce all of those changes into the document.
Draft version number 8. Yeah.
Version number 8.
Okay, well, you're on.
I would like to say two things about it. I think that the substance of the proposal is now where we want it to be. I think that there are a small number of changes that need to be made in order to make it a little bit clearer. I discovered that there was, Mike, I did discover that there were some agreed upon terms were not always used in the way in which we had agreed to use them. Just to put you in the picture, we had agreed that we would call, I guess on May 29th we agreed on this.
Well, Mr. Chairman, maybe for the rest of us who haven't been intimately involved in this up to now, maybe you could kind of lay out what is in this before you start laying out the changes you'd like to make.
Okay, I'll try to do that. We are asking a contractor to submit an RFP basically to do 4 tasks. And those tasks are on page, set out in the scope of services on page 0310, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's it. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those 5 pages contain the substance of what we would like the contractor to do. To back up just a little bit, we really have basically 2 contracts on this. One for the Memorandum of Understanding, which you passed several weeks ago, for the Barnstable County Department of Health and Environment to do one piece of the task and to contribute to a couple of other tasks. And our job was to spell out what the other tasks were that we wanted the consultant to do, our consultant that was writing the RFP for, and how they differed from, specifically how they differed from the task that was under the Memorandum of Understanding, and how those two related to one another. And so let's go through the tasks just briefly that we were asking okay, here's the page. Asking the consultant to do. Task number 1, we want them to help us to design to work out the technology, work out the eco-toilet technologies which are feasible for use in the project. We already have, not some which are approved by the state, and we will start with those. But we're asking for a more general discussion of the feasibility of the feasible toilets and what they would mean if those were used, or if others were used, what the costs would be, and so forth. So we tried to set that out in number 1.
Would you want questions during your presentation or wait till the end?
I'd be glad to have questions on each task as we go forward.
Okay.
I had a question.
Yes.
What's approved by the state is clearly approved by the state. What is feasible is a real open-ended question, and me and you could agree, but Matt might disagree.
Yes.
Is there guidance, or would that be something we will work out between the successful respondent and the state?
My thought
Something
is,
might take a state back to the legislature to approve.
I'll say what I think on that. We already have some that are approved. We're going to go ahead with those, with BCDHE. In other words, those will be in the demonstration project. But as we go forward, there are others that we would like to demonstrate, possibly. We're not including in the eco-toilet demonstration at this time, we're not including any urine diverting toilets, because those have not been approved by the state.
So you're going to evaluate the cost and the feasibility, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's the kind of, evaluate the cost and feasibility of those. There are also certain other eco-toilets which are available, which have not been approved by the state, which may or may not be useful to look at as possible additions to the eco-toilet. It's called a stable of technologies. And third, there's a number of cases in which there are mixes of eco-toilet technologies, which we would like to explore and find out which ones of them would apply to specific places that we put them in.
Do you want to jump in that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say that George Hoyfelder and myself and a few other people are meeting with Brian Dudley to work out the details of what qualifies as an eco-toilet. For example, we know there are 2 composting toilets that are approved by the state, or maybe more. There's several composting toilets. We don't have a urine diverting toilet approved by the state. We don't have anybody that we know of that has applied to do that, but we are going to ask the Barnstable County. In fact, maybe you can help with this, Jerry. We're going to ask the collaborative, the tech committee of the collaborative, to ask for urine diverting toilets to be evaluated by the Plumbing Board of Inspectors. So that's sort of where we're going. You'll be hearing more about that later.
So what I heard, this is a work in progress.
This is a work in
It's
progress.
terms that will be defined.
But if I can
Yeah, go
jump in
ahead.
here. I think you're picking up the line, Jerry, at the thing that says identify feasible types. But if you come down to 3A and B under task 1, task line A says identify feasible. You picked up on the word feasible, but if you go to 3A and B, it then does further delineation between permitted and non-permitted types
Okay.
to sort them out better. So I think it's fairly clear where they're starting from and then where they're narrowing down. So I think it's comprehensive to that regard.
Okay.
Yeah, looking at that, I'm looking at B, and I don't see how,
What page are we on?
page 0310-1. B does not seem to me that it's going to cover urine diverting toilets.
Why not?
Is the vendor willing to provide the toilets? And have we talked to a vendor about that?
That's one of the things that needs to be determined. We don't know that
Okay,
answer
so
to it yet.
at this point you don't.
This is identification, and then you're trying to proceed forward from there.
Gotcha, okay.
You got to ask them.
Okay, fine.
Yes.
So I guess you've answered the question I was going to ask. I had heard one of you say at an earlier meeting that you had focused on composting toilets.
Right.
But that's just for your initial demonstration project.
That's correct.
Right.
We have to start there because we can't use any other toilets at this point.
And it's up to you, not up to us, to figure out that the other ones won't be on such a long pipeline that you won't have them to the useful point in time to be decided on.
It's my understanding, there's two issues here. One is cost. We have only a certain amount of money to do the
Right.
whole project.
Right.
And it's going to cost a good deal to provide incentives to do this, and so we don't know how much we're going to have. But if we have the money available, and secondly, if the DEP will allow a certain number of those other toilets to be installed, and if we can get them, then we can test them. But that's something we can start with next fall, next spring. We have a while.
And you
to get
might
them.
incentivize one of the other manufacturers to jump on the bandwagon and say, look, we're testing brand X.
We hope when they know that we're testing them, that they will actually come in here and do something.
Yeah, I want to jump in here. I think that, correct me if I'm wrong in my understanding of this, but the subcommittee's role is to get a scope of work together for RFPs. Once we have consultants working for us, you were starting off by talking to him versus us. The consultants will be reporting back, as you read in here, to the Water Quality Management Committee. So we as a group will be getting the updates, not individual subcommittees, I think, as we go forward. Am I misunderstanding the way we have this laid out, Eric?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay, so to the extent that somebody wants to propose or do something, it will come before the committee. Okay?
I mean, it may pass through the subcommittee while we're preparing the things, but it has to come before you before anything happens. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I just have a question. Matt, you'd mentioned previously that urine diverting toilets were with the plumbing board or something under consideration.
You have to get
or
it
so on.
approved by the Plumbing Board of Inspectors.
Right, right. But what I'm wondering is that the way this reads, it seems like there'll be a list prepared at the time of this being awarded or whatever in this process, and then maybe in 6 months, they become approved for use in the state somehow, in some level. So
It's possible.
Can they be added? No, I mean others may come in, whatever. I mean, I'm just wondering if the flexibility, there should be something, maybe some language that allows for.
You're saying already permitted. You want to say permitted now or in the next?
I'm just saying, yeah, basically
months.
saying that if new ones come online while this is being implemented, that they could consider those.
I think it's really DEP that will tell us
Right.
which ones can be
Yep.
used experimentally or not.
Hilda, you've been the advocate for this for a while. Why don't you come to this table and join this conversation? I'm sorry, over here.
I might be duplicating what Matt said, but my understanding was that we are allowed to have pilot projects, pilot toilets, that have not officially been approved, but have shown to be worthwhile looking into, because they already have been used on some sites. And that we are allowed to use those, and during the time that we do the research, they then go through that processing time, which is 6 or 12 months, whatever DEP tells it. And then after the time, if they are being considered functioning well, then they have gone through the process, the permitting process, and they become approved. And I thought that we were allowed to have that for urine diverting and for any other system that after you show that they have significance by previous use,
Gotcha.
that
Jerry.
you can include them.
I think we may be getting too much in the weeds. Remember, this is an RFP. After this comes in, we're going to still put together a detailed scope of work, or a more specific scope of work. And then there's going to be, just as the chair said, an iterative process. Someone may come back and say, we think of this, and the committee might say, we'd like you to add this, this, this. Any of the consultants in the room, tell me if I'm wrong. So that's how we're going to go, I'm assuming, that's how we're going to go forward with this, that a passing out of what's in or out now is not worthwhile, because DEP may throw something out or may say, oh yeah, that's not a problem.
Yeah, you're right. This whole exercise is to go hire someone to do these tasks, not necessarily to fine
Not to do the task now, not to do the task now.
Right, Steve.
Is it fixed price to do this stuff, or is it a price per hour to do things like this?
The way I
Fixed
understand
price.
it, it's a fixed price. Now, we always have the ability to add to it, and some contracts will come in with, Steve, everybody, hourly rates if we wanted to adjust it, so we would know how we would adjust it. But, it's not like necessarily lump sum. We're giving someone 60,000 and they're coming back. This contract says it's up to 60, they're gonna tell us how they're gonna explain it. Every contract has modification. If they come with modifications, if the committee thinks it's worthwhile, if we have budget, that goes forward and we negotiate it. We cannot think of everything now, and we won't.
But I'm certainly not being antagonistic to the Eco-Toilet Subcommittee if I'm trying to protect their budget. They have a finite budget. And if I was the person bidding on this and I bid a fixed price, and then you ask me to do something in addition, I have every right to charge you more.
Let the contracting officers in the town take care of this, and we'll get back to you with the committee.
Yeah, I'm going to step into this just briefly. The way all of the RFPs have been set up, and the language that sits up in the front portion, Steve, says that we want the proposers to come back and, from what we've asked them, of what we think we need to do,
Right.
for them to come back and say how they're going to approach the problem that we're asking to be solved. They have to give us their best look at that. We're going to look at people on a qualification basis. We're then going to look at the price they offer us, and we've asked them to give it to us as a lump sum. We've also asked them to give a breakdown so we can see how many hours for what type of people are working on it. That breakdown then serves as a basis for adding or subtracting scope as you go along, should we decide to take something out or add something in. So it's not, you use the word bid and just in terms of the professional parlance, it's more like it's a proposed level of effort for what's called a guaranteed max or a fixed price, okay? And then there's a breakdown of your labor rates and hours that is used for any adjustment that happens over time to the scope. And if you add what we call ODCs, like we want you to go out and buy a toilet, if they haven't in here included the cost of buying toilets when we retain them, and they come back and say, under this task 2, we think we should buy whatever some firms come up with for the latest toilet that we think is great, and the vendor says, I need $1,000 to ship it, we can then make a decision if we're spending $1,000 to ship it and add it into the budget. Did I confuse you?
I'll defer to you because you know certainly far more about contracting of this sort than I do. But let me just jump ahead to still Phase 1, Task 1, C2. You're just looking at costs for new construction, which is a lot easier to figure out than the costs for retrofit to existing construction.
Got to speak to that?
That's not right.
Yeah, I think that needs to be added.
And so I'm simply warning you that presumably you want the costs for retrofit too. You're going to blow part of your budget.
Could I speak to
Sure.
that? I do actually have some language that we could put in if we decided to do so. But we left that out. We talked about that and we left it out. We believe that that is part of what's going to come out of the MOA for the BCDHE. They're going to be doing 62 toilets. We're going to know a lot about the costs of existing toilets by the time they get through, because we're going to have to install 62 of them.
And most of them will not be new construction.
Most of them will not be.
But they will be self-selected for ones where it's easy to put them in.
We don't know that yet, but it's probable, yes, there's going to be some
Common
self-selection of
sense,
that.
right.
There might be a need to put us, I can give wording which we might want to put back in if you chose to do so, but I don't know whether it's necessary.
Why don't you make reference to the MOU, and you're absolutely right, if all of a sudden we need more details than the MOU gives us, we go back, there's a change, and we might have to increase the budget if it's worthwhile.
I'm going to side with Steve here momentarily, though, because I had flagged that as an area that I thought in this first task of sort of defining what's out there. I took and I actually got some maps made up that I think I distributed around showing
did, very useful.
for all of the areas that we're looking at, the number of homes and the number of bathrooms in each lot. There's not many new homes.
Right.
So getting a cost for putting them into new homes is sort of a non sequitur, if I can use that word. I'm not even sure what it means, but I think it means unapplicable. And so I would suggest that at this phase here, so that we start getting in that first task a number. So for somebody to say to somebody, develop a cost for putting these into homes with basements and or homes without basements, or 2 or 3 parameters, and and some cost of it, then as we're going forward, we have a number to work with, okay? I mean, we have a number that's been floating around for putting a sewer connection from the street to a house, so.
So now we need an amendment to C2 that takes out the word new in both of those dots. Right?
I think so.
Okay, is that a motion?
Second. Well, Matt and Wayne have to say
No,
it.
we have a discussion on it.
Yeah.
I moved to strike the word new in the first bullet.
And the second bullet.
And I'm sorry, and the second bullet, bifocals.
Okay, that's a motion, it's been seconded. Further conversation?
I'd like to hear what other people have to say about that.
I think they all agree.
Well, it's you. I'd like to hear what you guys have to
Yes,
say
it's
about it.
I can understand, I don't think it hurts to take them out, to take new out. But I understand what, and this conversation took place probably when I wasn't there. A lot of the calculations for the cost of installation will be done by Barnstable County. And you say that it will be self-selecting. Well, I think initially it won't. I think we're going to get a lot of people, the funnel's going to be big, a lot of people are going to want to get in. We're going to end up only doing the houses that are easily done. Okay? But we're going
That's
to, no, but we're going to have pricing done before that. You know, as they enter the funnel, we're going to price out how much it costs to do their home. And then the people who drop out of the bottom are going to be the ones where it's less expensive and easier to do.
That may happen, yeah.
You brought up a good point, that if you need the pricing piece at all in this RFP, if Barnstable County is doing it,
That's why we dropped it out, yes,
Okay.
basically. We don't think we need it for them.
That's why they had new in there. And
Okay.
so that's,
Because the MOU says specifically that
okay,
they
well,
will
what do you think of that?
do cost.
and you're going to run into this time and time again because you're dealing with an MOA and then an RFP and.
I don't, one of the nuances of where the information comes from or doesn't come from, I think a valuable product from this effort will be having cost estimates for what it would be to go retrofit existing homes in Falmouth, that this board would be able to embrace to say, if you have an existing home, it will cost X or Y dollars estimated to do it. And that consists of the following, whatever the pieces of the puzzle are, you know. Doing something in the basement, doing some wiring, whatever it is, but a decent number. At some point through this process, we need to get to that point.
So you're saying you'd like to have it
As long as someplace-
just as a consideration?
As long as someplace out of this, as when it all gets done, Matt, and we're back to whatever we do through this step here, beyond looking at the benefits or the, you know, how these things work and everything, having a good number that we could say, Eco-Toilets will cost X dollars for a home with a basement, and Y dollars for a home without a basement. That would be a useful number to have.
Yeah, so Monday's off.
You're basically saying that take B, which is an attempt to do a flow chart of the whole thing, and then costs for the whole thing, and you could break them down whether they're costs of no or costs of existing. And that would be useful information, there's no question about that. The only reason we dropped it out of that was because we thought we were going to have that information. But I see your argument.
It's just,
see your point.
again, talk about new single-family and multifamily construction is a non sequitur. There is so little new construction that will happen in that area. I will offer that, as a member of the Board of Health, we actually this week had somebody come in and say, if I don't increase the flow in my unit, but I want to convert to eco-toilets, to composting toilets, and so I can add another bedroom, how would your board respond to that? And we said, as long as you don't increase the flow, we don't have a fundamental problem with that. So I expect that particular individual will come back to the next board with an actual proposal to us. Just leave it there, we'll get you the name later.
I was going to say, we collected a whole list of names and we don't know.
But again, those folks are gonna have to spend money to retrofit a two-bedroom, a two-bathroom house, so they can go from a two-bedroom to a three-bedroom configuration on their property. So there will always be a number out there over time.
Yeah, it's 296 Edgewater East. If you drive over there.
Okay.
Okay, task 1C2, the word new has been, motion's been made to delete new from those last two dots. Are we for it or against it?
Say, just leave it. Take the new out, just leave that. I want to strike the phrase.
I would strike it.
I'm presenting these points in the spirit that I'm warning you. I mean, I'm
Okay.
trying to help you, that if, to prevent you from shooting yourself in the foot. If you,
Okay.
if you wait 5 years and that data isn't there, you have a problem convincing people of Eco-Toilet. If you choose not to collect it now, that's between you and the Eco-Toilet.
But that's not what we're saying. Clearly, we're saying that Barnstable County is going to collect that data, okay, for existing homes.
Right. So you would prefer to leave the new in, is that what I'm hearing, or do you care?
Doesn't really matter that
Okay.
much, but
I think we can leave it in or go out according to.
Okay.
Originally, there were 4 bullets. I've been working with the subcommittee. Originally, there were 4 bullets. So there was new, and then there was existing, single-family and multifamily construction, and existing commercial buildings. And we took out those 2 bullets because the Barnstable County
Right.
Memorandum of Agreement is going to collect that data, and we didn't want duplication. So I think the new has to stay in.
All right then.
There was one other thought here that came into play.
you're going to have to use the, Hilda, pass him the microphone.
But if I can, and so you know that, and the people that are working on this know this, but I'm now going to come in and submit to you as an outside person in response to a thing I see in the Central Register, a proposal, okay? And so I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, they got all these new homes out there. They got to make a mistake here. I'm going to tell them I'm going to give them for, so I think it's confusing.
Okay.
At the very least, it's confusing to anybody that's responding.
Well, an additional note that says existing, data on existing single-family, multifamily will be collected by Barnstable.
Yeah, or something that says preliminary cost estimates of the capital cost of installation. New systems will be provided by.
He's right. We're not talking about new homes. We're talking about homes that are being designed to be constructed.
Right.
They're not built yet, okay? A new home, you're right, that's just a home that was built yesterday.
One more point I'd like to make on this, that this is not, what they're doing here is not merely for the demonstration project. It includes information that's going to be useful after the demonstration project is over. That's,
Right, to project the cost.
yeah, to project costs of all kinds. Yeah.
But again, I'm going to come back to this momentarily. What I'm hearing is you are saying that the cost number for installing eco-toilets in the existing homes will be coming from Barnstable County.
Right.
So, given that there are so few new dwellings that will go up in our area, I suggest we strike the entire thing out because it's misleading. If I'm submitting a proposal to this, I don't realize that somebody else is providing a cost estimate.
Well, there's one other point here that, and maybe it's incorrect, but in my thinking, Barnstable County Health Department is going to go and interview the homes that have existing eco-toilet systems. How many are there?
20?
Altogether?
In Falmouth,
Well, how many?
or in an area about?
What I'm thinking is that this is a
25?
pretty small number.
It's, yeah,
Right.
2 dozen.
And that data they get is going to be all over the place. It's going to be empirical data that's going to be, well, I think it cost us this much, I'm not quite sure, I don't have the data on this, or I did it myself, or it was jury rigged and wasn't done properly, etc. They're going to come in with a whole raft of information that is very, what's the right word?
Diverse.
What's it?
Diverse.
Diverse.
But-
And it's not
Unrepresentative.
systematic. What this, in my mind, what this was intended to do is have a consultant come in and do it correctly, if there is a correct. But to actually say, okay, if this is a house, here's the way it should be done properly, and do a real estimate based by a, quote, engineer or practitioner that is definitive and reliable, as opposed to empirical data that comes from people that don't know how much it cost or may not remember or whatever.
No, I can probably add to that. From about 24 that I know of in the area, we should be able to get good information because they were all installed. At least 20 of them were new construction when it was installed. So they can figure that out. It's pretty clean data. And there's...
Is it?
Yeah, I would think so. They all were done professionally by either Cleavers or Phoenix. And they can come up with the figures.
Okay, we spent about half an hour on this, and I think it's enough. We really have to come to a conclusion here.
I think it's pretty clean.
Is there a motion to make any changes in task 1? We have a motion that was seconded, but it sounds like it's been withdrawn.
I'd like to come back to my word already and have that stricken, if that would be.
Where's that now?
That's in 3A, we discussed, under A3A.
A3A.
Yeah, for permitted types of eco-toilets.
Already. Okay, you want already out? Is that a motion?
I'm just saying, yeah, motion to take already out
Okay.
because.
Second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Good. Already is out.
Okay, okay. No problem.
Okay, any other amendments to task 1 language?
I will withdraw the motion.
Okay. So to new stays.
With regard to C2, the
New
stay in?
stays.
Let's leave it.
Okay, anything else on task 1? All right, Wynn, tell us about task 2.
Okay. Task 2 is, in essence, a task which must be done to make sure that we get the participants for the project. And we are going to be doing some of that this summer ourselves, but we feel that we need the help of the consultant to continue that process and to make that process work better. That's the main purpose of task 2, is to make sure we get the number of people we need for the project itself.
Okay, keeping in mind that this will go to the selectmen next week. If they approve it, it has a laborious process before anybody gets brought on board. So your time frame is not going to be this summer.
That's right. We're going to be doing something this summer, however, toward meeting this.
Okay.
But they will come in, therefore, knowing that we have done a certain amount of work, that we may even have some installed by the time they come aboard. We certainly have a lot in the pipeline when they get aboard. But there are a lot of things that they can help us with, and we've tried to outline some of the things they can help us with to increase the possibility that we get our 62 or more, which are...
And I would encourage you to do as much work as possible in West Falmouth. Because for every home in West Falmouth, you can get to go on an eco-toilet. You open up additional wastewater treatment plant capacity for other needs that we may have.
Okay.
So I'd really focus it out there. It would be a win-win for everybody, for every home you sign up out there.
If you can find people out there, if we can find people out there,
Focus.
great. Wonderful.
Focus.
1 to 6, is it?
It's not in our sewer area.
Well,
We're not going to focus on that.
Well, actually, when we come to the discussion about the settlement, you'll find that it is in our area.
I'm serious about this. It's a win-win. Every one of those homes is a positive benefit for this whole overall program.
It may be worth saying at this point, in addition to that, that the area in which we can get eco-toilets installed for the demonstration
I'm going to the Board of Health. We have people in West Falmouth. We got to encourage those people to put in those eco-toilets.
Great. It does not have to be in that 8,000 area. It can be elsewhere.
Can be elsewhere, but everywhere you can get in West Falmouth, it's really good for us.
That's good to know. That's great. Okay. So that's task 2.
Okay,
Okay.
Any questions about that?
I have one question about task 2, and it's item 2, under task 2, and then there's a series of bullets
Yes.
where participant candidates may include, and it's sort of conjectural of who these owners of these buildings might be. I'm concerned about the last bullet, because I think it implies something that cannot be offered. And so the last bullet says, owners within areas projected to be sewered that may be excluded from connection at the discretion of the town. Obviously, it says may and it says discretion, but the implication there is that we would be looking for some sort of checkerboarding so that if someone had an eco-toilet, they would not be part of a sewer system if a sewer system goes in. And I thought we should discuss that.
And I have a different question on the same issue, which is number 2 in that list. Would the Board of Health agree that an owner who puts one of these things in, who has a failed or failing septic system?
I would say that once that you have your consultant on board and progress has been made along a wide range of things, the Board of Health would welcome to have a discussion with the Water Quality Management Committee.
Okay, but as of right now, it's not the board's policy to say.
Not the board's
If
policy.
you come in with an Eco-Toilet.
There's a policy
you're off
about
the-
accepting alternative systems, but no, it's not a de facto policy at this
Okay.
time.
Matt?
To Virginia's point, I was very clear when I asked Andy Gottlieb about this issue, and he said that it is a local option according to the legislation. So if Virginia's right, it would require that we took it to town meeting and we got a vote to allow checkerboarding. And that's why you have the qualifiers may be, excluded.
Right.
So, but it could be a very important incentive to people who, because it, theoretically would be less expensive than hooking up to the sewer. So that's why we kept it in there.
Okay, right.
I agree with what you said. To get checkerboarding in would be section 10 of the O'Leary. We have to approve that in its entirety. But my overall concern more is that, and this gets to a lot of things, are we directing too much what we want the consultants to do? This could be a perfect example how you rate out who's a better respondent than others. Let them give you a suggestion. We can always tell them at the contract stage what we want. In general, most of the RFPs I've seen are far too wordy, and it's going to lead to far too much confusion. It's laudable that you want to tell them, but think of this, we're asking for a consultant to give their best. We want them to compete with one another. We don't want to think through the problem for them. We want the solution. So I could see striking out all those bullets, and you're not missing a heartbeat because you add them back in when you come to sign the contract. If you have specifics.
Fair enough.
Jerry, you're right that this list of things in here, whatever we put in there, was because we have to start doing that this summer. We have to start looking at these things. We're going to be, this particular thing is something we're going to start looking at, so we had to have the list for ourselves.
Right.
And what you're saying is, don't give it to the consultants, let them tell us, and maybe they'll have some ideas that we don't have on our list, is what you're saying.
Essentially, yeah.
And we can suggest to them as they come here, we looked at these, and why don't you help us? Is that?
Yeah, essentially, I would take out all the bullets.
Jerry, Mr. Chairman, wouldn't that be an excuse for them to ask for more money too? I mean.
No, because you're going to, in my mind, this may be the well, first of all, you're going to evaluate the people that are innovative and come in with the best. Something happens if they're listening. They may now know what to put in. But if they're probably not listening, you're going to get the best and brightest of the people coming to us. If they all exclude it, when we sit down to sign the contract with them, we now can say these are some of the things we want. And I don't think it would change the contract that much because we're very early in the contract. And I'm sure they haven't thought it through this much.
I would just say that this is just one item. We're bound to lose something if we drop all this. I would argue for thoroughness at this point.
Would it help to say candidate participants may include but not be limited to the following?
Mr. Chairman?
Does that get you
Sure.
close to where you want to be?
It's your call,
I'm just throwing it in there because you're right, you don't want to limit their imaginations.
I hear what Jerry's saying, but on the other hand, I've had, every experience I've had with competent contractors, I've told them everything I could think of, and the good ones always think of other things, and that's what really impresses me.
So you want to do both?
Well, I'm agreeing with what you're saying, the included but not limited to. They're giving them the list of what we can think of.
Okay.
If they can't think of more than that, why are they in that field?
I'd like to move that after the phrase may include, we add the words, but not limited to.
Second.
Okay,
Second.
discussion?
I only suggest that we do that in 3 as well.
Well, let's do it in 2 first, okay.
I'll explain my motion, because he's
Okay.
right, okay?
Three.
So if you don't mind, I'll explain my motion to say, add the phrase, after may include in both 2 and 3, but not limited to.
All right, moved, seconded, to further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're there. Opposed? No. I'm not voting no, I'm just saying, there were none opposed, for the record.
Okay?
Okay, item 3 and 4, anything else?
Stay positive, stay positive.
For three,
Anything else
you
on task 2?
For 3, you might want to add that water bill website idea, unless you want to see if they come up with it because they've been watching this on TV.
I think it would be a good idea to do that. You mean as item D, as D under 3?
Yeah, but no, I'll make the motion if you want me to, but I'm doing this all in the spirit of, if the subcommittee
Make the
wants to
motion.
put that in. Okay, I make a motion that to
Second.
3, you add the water bill website idea.
Okay,
Yep.
moved and seconded?
Water bill insert or water bill website?
Water bill insert and
Insert.
associated website idea.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, what website?
Yeah,
There's a water bill,
you're assuming we're gonna have a website?
Yes.
but the committee's website,
Yeah.
not the water bill website.
Correct.
Oh,
But is there a water department website?
Well, we're not using
No,
it
no,
if
no.
there is.
No, no, it has to be separate.
They're very explicit about that.
Okay.
In fact, the town IT department already developed a website for the committee previous to this one.
Okay, so website should be in here too,
I think that's a fine.
okay? And the water bill insert, okay?
Do we have exact wording for that, for the secretary?
Close enough.
Close enough.
you could say D is water bill insert, E is town website.
They go together.
Okay, fine. That sounds, did somebody make that as a motion?
Accept that as a friendly amendment.
So moved.
So move, second.
Okay.
Friendly appeal.
Further discussion?
Under task 2, I have it on page 0310-2, the last sentence. It says, and suggesting improvements in the existing materials and efforts. Assuming that we have existing materials and efforts, but it would be good to name a few, because I don't know what we have and materials to show to the consultant. And it happens several times in this RFP that it's mentioned that there are materials available for this Eco-Toilet demo project, but I don't know which ones are available. And if a consultant comes in, he or she would like to know if there's a lot of stuff already done that they can build on, or do they have to start from scratch?
Are you already talking about task 3?
No.
Task 2, paragraph 1 up from the bottom, task 2.
Suggesting
One up from the
improvements
bottom.
in
Where are you?
existing materials and effort, but there's no example given of what these existing materials
I
are.
don't think you're on the right page.
I must not be on
I
it.
can-
Back up.
Where are we?
Well, let me get to the.
Right down
the
there,
new one,
bottom of there,
because I'm
right
still
here.
working on that one.
Oh, okay, okay.
Right there.
Matt?
I think Hilda raises a good issue. They've produced a lot of these
Well,
materials.
that's right, your material is it.
But that's not the committee's material, that's our material.
She's right. It's,
This doesn't say it's the committee's material.
well,
Well, the town seeks to assure the selection, but several times in this, as you come
Okay.
in other tasks, it's mentioned too that that the Eco-Toilet Committee has materials, and I just was wondering if there are such things, then there
No,
should be
there aren't.
some examples.
Then I move we strike the phrase, and suggesting improvements in the existing materials.
Yeah,
Okay,
Yeah.
moved and
We
seconded.
can do that.
right.
I have only one comment about that.
Yeah.
That we are going to be having to produce some materials this summer. We must produce them. And I would like those to be assessed. In other words, in order to, remember, this is processing and participants in the demonstration project. We're going to have some materials done of various different sorts. not necessarily concerned with, well, education outreach is, I guess, the thing that you were concerned with, because we have a lot of other materials. Maybe it,
Well, it will come back again on the 3 and on the 4.
Okay, let's deal with it here first.
So
yeah.
it's the same issue and all.
Thank you. But we're going to deal with it here first since it's a motion on the floor. Any further discussion on the motion, which was to take out that piece that says?
Put a period after the word, put a period after the word materials, strike the remainder.
Okay.
I don't think it matters too much, because one way to produce materials is to improve old ones.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
So is that all right with everybody?
The point is we have no.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
No, can somebody read the, I'm not even sure what
What Steve was saying was the opposite.
I know, but the motion was what it was, which was to put the period after materials.
Okay.
And what about existing?
No, the outreach materials, put the word after outreach materials,
Oh,
outreach materials, period, and strike and suggested improvements in the existing materials and efforts.
Oh, yeah, I see two materials here, okay.
That's fine.
So, we okay with that?
Too many materials in this paragraph.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, anything else on task 2?
Was there a vote?
Check. All in favor of the motion?
Quick question, clarifying.
We're going to take a vote. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay, this is for task 2, item 4. I'm not sure if you closed up. You would want these incentives to be reviewed by someone. A consultant could come up with a whole bunch of incentives that the county might like, but we may not like. I understand what this is, but is it implied that this be subject to our review? Not only our review, but the review by others in the town.
Again, could I speak to that? Just, I'm a little bothered by this too, because it suggests that we won't have a set of incentives before they come in. We will have to have an agreement on a set of incentives before they come in if we're going to go ahead with the project this summer.
That's true.
True.
What they're going to be doing is taking a look at that and maybe suggesting possible changes in the sets of incentives. So I don't know whether it needs rephrasing or whether it can be left as it is.
Mr. Chairman, we could say the town will provide you with an initial list of incentives, if that's our intent.
Yes, yes.
Okay, does
That would
sound-
be a parenthetical note or something like that.
does that sound good to everybody? That sounds like a motion. I'm not
Second.
hearing-
I mean, well, we can take a motion, but I do, maybe who's going to provide the incentives? Who's going to provide the list of incentives?
Wynn said excuse me, Mr. Chair, Wynn
Wynn.
said you're developing it this summer.
We can't go ahead with the project this summer unless we.
So
have
this
those
committee,
incentives.
will develop the incentives.
This committee will develop,
Initial set.
we will provide, in fact, we're going to provide you with a list next week of proposed incentive, or next time we meet. It's one of the things we want to do, is start that process. Because it has to go through you, and then it has to go through the town.
Right.
Before we can get anywhere.
Well, that's true.
So is there any chance that, will there be any opportunity for this contractor to improve on the incentives that have been
Yes.
developed
Yeah.
before they arrive on the scene?
Not before they are adopted as provisional anyway by the town, so we can go forward with it. If they come in the fall and they say, we can think of other incentives, or ways of doing it that might be better, we could present that to the town as a possibility.
And you could say propose additional incentives.
Yes.
Are you expecting the selectmen to approve a list of initial incentives that they may or may not completely understand? I think, even if we go in with it, I think it's subject to a long discussion. Remember, they vote policy.
Yes.
This committee will recommend specifics to the town manager. I hope you can if you want, but I think it's going to be a do loop. You know, we could discuss incentives from now until the plan is approved.
How about just skipping the second sentence here and just having them propose a system of incentives, and they can take into account the ones you've already got, but we don't need them preparing documents.
Yeah, just leave the first, you're saying, Eric, leave the first sentence in and strike the remainder of all this stuff about
Exactly.
conditions, et cetera. That can be developed.
And if we have it available, we give it to them to evaluate.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then it gets approved by the selectmen at the end, when the committee accepts the report and the selectmen accept the report.
So I move we strike everything after the first sentence in paragraph 4.
Second.
I have only one comment to that, pursuant to what Jerry just said. If we do that, then we must wait until they are approved, until we have them on board. If we go according to the procedure you're suggesting, we have to have them on board long enough for them to do that. That would mean, let us say, October, November, before we had any list of incentives approved by the selectmen. If that happens, then we do not go ahead with the project this summer at all.
I don't think he's talking that at all. We can go ahead right now and do whatever we want to do.
We could do incentives tonight if it was on the
Right.
agenda.
If and when this person gets hired, one of their many tasks would be to look at your list and maybe come up with something better.
That's how I've understood it. I just
Right.
understood what Jerry was saying.
And then, obviously, it's a money thing. The selectmen approve all money.
Yes,
Right.
absolutely.
This could be above the 60,000.
Good, well.
To me,
The 60,000 does not include incentives.
yeah, that's fine, yeah, I was saying the same.
Yeah.
Okay, so the motion's been made and seconded to leave the second sentence off of number 4 and leave just the first sentence on. Any further discussion?
Do you want, just a question? Did you want to add the clause that you discussed about the intent of the town to provide the consultant with an initial list to review?
No.
No,
Wait,
no.
no. Okay. Well, made and seconded, a vote on that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Good, got it. And anything else on task 2? Task 3?
Task 3. Task 3 has a different focus than Task 2 because it's focused on the longer term. It's focused on the question of how can we get people in the town to understand what the demonstration project is all about and what the whole question of eco-toilets is about, what eco-toilets can do, how they can do it, and to get a sense for the selectmen, to get a sense, and the town meeting to get a sense of how effective eco-toilets could be in meeting the CWMP needs if they were accepted by the people who in the town. In other words, we have to get them accepted by people in the town before we could get a vote. We have to have knowledge of how people are going to vote before the selectmen would consider it as an addition to the CWMP. Yes.
No, Matt, first.
Yeah.
We, after talking to Hilda and Earl last night, we noticed that because of the way this evolved, we dropped out the implementation of the education and outreach. So we are recommending that you add C, a new C, after B, that would say implement education / outreach in B above. And I have that in writing if you want.
Could you just say develop and implement under B?
You could just add it on to B if you wanted. Save some formatting, but clearly, when originally proposed, we thought this would happen much quicker, but because, well,
It's true of
because
everything.
because of the phasing, it's going to be a year before any of the implementation
Right.
happens if we don't add it here.
Actually, to make a slight correction, it would be about 6 months if we put an April date on the time when they're supposed to report all that. But you're right, it's going to take some time. We need to do it before. We need to start doing the implementation before. The way that thing is phrased, it says that can take full advantage of available resources within the town. I don't think we're going to expect the consultant to come in and become the implementing person for the entire we hope that they can do some of it. We hope we'll have some resources in the town that can do some of the implementation. We don't think that they simply will come in and they will implement the entire
Well,
process.
Matt's amendment kind of implies that.
It does, and I think that's too much, but I don't know,
Mike?
Matt mentioned this to me before the meeting. I added a C draft form that basically says, upon approval of the Water Quality Management Committee, implement the strategy for public education outreach in close cooperation with the Water Quality Management Committee, Barnstable County Department of Health and Environment, and other town contractors and staff.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
I understand why, for time purposes, you want to put that in there, but have you thought about the impact on the budget? Somewhere else in this document, it says you're expecting the budget to be of the order of 60,000. If you have a budget for a house and then you start, or anything, you start adding features, pretty soon you have a set of impossible constraints. You're either going to get a watered-down proposal or something else has to give. I'm not trying to stop you from doing it. I'm just saying, if you keep the $60,000 figure the same, is the result going to be what you want?
I don't think there's any way of knowing that. You know, I think it's possible, but you won't know until you
just
put it out to bid.
It wasn't, and I don't know if it was not any discussion on whether Mike's suggestion helped or hurt the discussion here. Putting aside, you know, right now it's 60,000, and I thought we all agreed, it's 60,000 but can be expanded based on availability of budget and resources given. Mr. Hughes, do you want to sort of discuss his suggestion or just keep on moving around?
I think your suggestion, as you stated it, would be appropriate. As you stated it would be appropriate because it would bring in the fact that we use what resources we have as well as what resources they have.
It also says that you want to approve this strategy, you know.
Right.
They propose it, you approve it.
Okay, Virginia.
I move that we adopt the language.
Well,
yes.
let's get Virginia, then I'm.
And I'm sort of building on what Mike said. When we touched on this at one of the subcommittees, the thought was that whatever the costs of the materials and the implementation were not part of the 60,000. They would be part of the article.
So they come back with that.
And so I don't know whether that needs to be spelled out, but the point is maybe that's part of the approval process of this committee. So that it doesn't, so that funding, which is unknown at this point as to how much the materials would cost.
That makes sense when you think about it. They'll come back with a program and a price tag.
Yeah.
And then we'll take that up.
Yeah.
I think the way Mike phrased it, I'd like to hear him read it one more time. To your comment, though, the people that are going to respond to this in their proposal will be very careful about what they say they will be doing to that paragraph so that they are not committing resources that they don't want to have. They'll get cagey, if you will, by saying, we'll be doing this stuff, but we will hand this over to you in a format and somebody else can put it on the town's webpage or somebody else can print it or whatever. So they won't take on a lot of that. They'll say, we got a program and we'll tell you how to do it. But you know, we assume that line there that you said about working with folks, Mike, read it again, because I think you actually kind of left it that there's someone else that's going to actually help out here quite a bit.
Well, yes, I'll read it. What I'm assuming is that they're going to put forth a strategy. It says what's going to be done and who's going to do it.
That's already in there. Develop materials.
That's what I'm saying.
That strategy is going to say what's going to be done and who's going to do it. So they're going to define in that strategy who's going to do it, et cetera, and then you approve it.
In close coordination, as you say, with, you know,
So upon approval of the Water Quality Management Committee, implement the strategy for public education outreach in close cooperation with the Water Quality Management Committee, Barnstable County Department of Health, Environment, and other town contractors and staff.
Okay, is that a motion?
It's a motion. But I just think it's really important because otherwise we do all of this work in preparing a program without implementing anything.
yeah.
Fair enough. Okay.
So I think
There's a
that,
motion
yes,
and a
I
second?
follow it, yeah.
Can I amend the amendment? Is that allowed? The line, like if you said, upon approval of the Water Quality Management Committee of the strategy and the costs associated with it, right? So that
You want
could
to add
say,
that?
yeah, I mean, that tells them that the costs associated with implementing it would have to come before us for approval.
Okay.
Does that make
Is that a
sense?
friendly amendment? Is okay with you?
Friendly amendment.
Okay.
But Virginia's point was much clearer, that the costs would come from somewhere else. I mean, if it's so easy to be clear, why not do it?
No, but this board needs to approve a strategy and needs to approve what it's going to cost to implement that strategy. Wherever the money for that strategy comes from is a whole nother discussion. The money could come from donations collected along with the fireworks campaign.
Right, and we shouldn't be under the illusion that us approving it is the end of the line. The selectmen have to approve it too.
That's right.
Right.
Also, I'd just like to add that costs come in two forms. First of all, the cost of materials and so forth and so on, but far more important is the cost of people. And so if you need to make it certain that they don't think they're going to simply supply all the people that are going to do the whole thing. We're going to have to do some of that. And we're in a bind. We don't know where we're going to find all the money needed to do all the work. But,
Do you want to further amend this amendment?
I personally think it's fine.
Ron made the amendment.
Yeah, I made the motion. I mean, I think that the wording of adding costs is a important dimension
I
to
think it
it.
helps to clarify it.
And I would, because would we end up, I mean, if it isn't under the contract, will we end up in the future saying, hey, we don't have a budget, or where's the money going to come from, or something like this? Whereas if it's in this, it's already in the plan, and they have to have some notion of what that means and experience with education and outreach. So I think that it should be in the 60,000 or whatever it is.
Okay, so that's your language as amended by you,
Right.
and that's your motion.
Right.
Can somebody read it?
That would be good.
Yes.
Upon approval of the strategy by the Water Quality Management Committee and the costs associated with it, implement the strategy for public education and outreach in close cooperation with the Water Quality Management Committee, Barnstable County Department of Health and Environment, and other town contractors and staff.
Okay, we've all heard the motion, it's been seconded, further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Anything else on task 3? You first.
No.
Someone over here? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Under A, and this is going back to you, that we're not necessarily here doing marketing, it says, design and implement an evaluation to assess the present understanding of eco-toilets. I'm not sure we necessarily want to say in acceptance, because every RFP, we could say in acceptance of shellfish and acceptance of this. This takes it to a marketing piece rather than an understanding. If they understand it, they may want it or they may not want it. I mean, is the committee saying that this now is a marketing piece to sell eco-toilets, or to simply make sure that folks understand it and then they'll make the decision?
Mr. Chairman?
I don't buy his original concept, just having acceptance in the survey. Rating the acceptance level does not make it a marketing
This
piece.
is a survey?
Yeah.
This is a questionnaire.
I withdraw it, I think, okay, you're
Just a
right.
It
questionnaire.
wasn't clear, but I think that's what it is, yes.
Okay.
Evaluation 2 means
You're right.
questionnaire. yeah.
Hilda?
Similar as we talked about on task number 2, under B from task number 3, it's a full advantage of available resources within the town. Maybe give an example what the resources are, so that the consultant knows what might be available.
Well, does anybody want to?
They should just propose. I mean, there's web pages and public meetings and all sorts of stuff.
Okay. Anything else on task 3?
I have this may be an editorial item, but on C, where I would suggest that the second word optimal be struck. And in the last line where it says recommendations to be changed to locations. So then you're identifying locations, and then you provide justification for those locations. So that's actually sort of a screening thing, where you identify locations, and you sort of screen them out, and you determine which sites are optimal through the justification process.
So what are you deleting?
The word
I'm
optimal.
moving to delete the word optimal
Okay.
in the first sentence, and in the third line, last sentence, change the word recommendations to locations.
I'll second that.
I see no problem with that.
Okay, moved and seconded. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
You got it. Anything else on task 3?
Well,
Mr. Chairman?
Steve?
I just want to draw people's attention to task 2, number 1, which I think is absolutely superb and excellent, and shouldn't be changed at all.
2, number 1.
Task 2, number 1. But the similarity of that to task 3A In fact, I like task 2.1 so much that I don't think you even need to do task 3A.
3A.
3A is a questionnaire, we just said.
But look at 2.1.
And 2.1 is a discussion with a representative cross-section of homeowners and residents.
Sort of like interviews.
That's quite different. I think.
This is like brainstorming, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's.
But the two could certainly be combined.
I hope they would.
I think the findings from the one
Yeah.
would be employed.
Sort of like a focus group,
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
right.
right? So,
Well, they can do both, I guess.
I'm just drawing it to their attention.
Yeah, you're right, but consider the difference of the reasoning why we want to do it in 2 and the reason we want to do it in 3. In 2, we're trying to find out as much as we can about people who will actually participate and what needs to be understood in order that they will participate. In number 3, we're looking at the longer-term question of what is the whole town? People are not participating in the project. What do they think about it?
2.1 has representative cross-section, which is the best part of it.
I would, Mr. Chairman, I would just say that, focus groups are used to analyze the issues involved and then to design a survey. So I think they're both,
That's a
you're
good-
right, we probably didn't realize it when we wrote them, but I think they do complement each other.
No, I think you're actually right. To
Right.
design your survey, you'd want to know what people are thinking a little bit before you send it out, to know what to ask. Anything else on task 3?
Can I ask a clarifying question? Sure. On task 2.2, we added the phrase, candidate participants may include but not be limited to, and we list the bullets. On 3, right below it, we also say the plan may include. Is it your intent to add but not be limited to there also? It was
Yes.
discussed.
Yes.
We voted for that, yeah.
Okay, we're good.
And you have a D and an E, a water bill and town website or something like that.
Yeah.
That also was added.
Right, anything else on task 3?
Just one thing, I'm going back to Hilda's point on this, on B. I'm just wondering whether we should bring their attention to FCTV or something like this if they don't know. I don't know where else you get when you're saying, available within the town such as FCTV or, programming or something like this, because it's, what other resources are there in town outside of books in the library?
I think we had TV in here somewhere else
I
already.
think, Mr. Chairman, Jerry's points about these succeeding meetings are appropriate here because that's...
You feeling well?
What? I'm feeling the love, Jerry. Are you feeling the love?
You agreed with me twice.
So I think a lot of that information can be provided at those
What's a
meetings.
rainbow to it?
I don't
Halfway.
Okay.
So anyway, that's, I think, a good place for a lot of this. Do you agree? I mean, do you think we can fill in a lot of these details?
Indeed.
Okay.
Okay, last call on task 3, let's go to task 4. Mr. Chairman?
Okay, task 4. I would like to make a small change in task 4, demonstration program.
You're supposed to say what it is.
Let's put it in before you change it.
I'm trying to tell you what it is. It's mislabeled, demonstration program. The whole thing is a demonstration program, and we're trying to get them, in this one, to sit down and take all the information from all the sources that they have available and tell us what we need to do basically in phase 2, what we need to do in phase 2 in order to implement the demonstration program in its entirety. And all sorts of things fall into that. And this is a list which comes from George, for the most part, George Heufeld, and we were very glad to have it because it was a nice, complete list of the kinds of things which need to be done in addition to the BCDEHE's work, which is just to find out how much we can use Eco-Toilets for. And it's also in addition to the publicity work. It's things that are going to have to be done. And just list them and a plan to do them, not the carrying out of all these things. For example, carrying out, they're not going to ask them to carry out a development of a program for handling eco-toilet residuals under feasible scenarios like we're not going to ask them to do that. We're going to ask them to assess what we have to do in order to do that.
Develop a work plan.
Develop a work plan.
Okay,
That's the whole purpose of it.
okay. Comments or
I
additions or
just have
corrections on this run?
Just a quick, it's just in A, under A, it says the range of eco-toilets that are considered feasible and/or permitted for use. How does the and/or fit in there?
Well,
Could it be,
clearly, some toilets may be feasible but not permitted by the state.
feasible, so it says feasible or permitted.
So we don't need and. You're right.
No, we don't need or.
Oh,
They could be feasible and not permitted.
So actually, it's the range of eco-toilets that are permitted or considered feasible.
That would do
That
it.
works better.
Yeah, that works better.
terrific. That sounds like a motion.
The range of eco-toilets that are permitted.
Ron's looking at me quizzically. This is the subject up. Is that okay?
It's an interesting interpretation, but
The
it's
range of
actually
eco-toilets
nicely.
that are permitted or considered feasible for
The
use.
example that was given at the subcommittee was that there are some eco-toilets in other states that are being used. They aren't necessarily permitted in Massachusetts at this point, but they've been installed in New Hampshire.
Right. They may be
or
feasible.
Maine. So they may be feasible.
So
And
the
so
range of eco-toilets that
this
are
was to try and capture that.
Permitted or considered feasible.
Okay, we've heard the motion. Is there a
I
second?
second.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You guys have it.
Good.
Mr. Chairman, I wanted to bring one other thought to people's attention. I don't know where it fits into this, but I would like to hear what people think about it. And this is based on something that I heard, a general principle that Brian Dudley told me, and I'm adapting it to eco-toilets. And that's that DEP certification is necessary but not sufficient for meeting the TMDLs. So if DEP allows a test in 62 eager, technically savvy, well-behaved households to generate an expected nitrogen reduction number, and if that number is then used to design an overall implementation plan, and that plan, when implemented, does not work because it involves less eager, less savvy, even disgruntled users, then that problem belongs to Falmouth, not to DEP. So you don't want to cheat on the test, is the other way of saying it. You don't want to cheat on your pilot's test.
This has nothing to do with the pilot test. It has to do,
It has to do with who you select, what you do in addition to your minimum demonstration project, and possibly how you select your 62 houses.
Hey, Matt.
In that little group that I was talking about earlier with Brian Dudley, the DEP group that's evaluating eco-toilets, he said that there's going to be an ongoing program that the towns will have to do to prove that these things work. So they won't be evaluated. Say we do 1,000 eco-toilets, just randomly. We won't have to test every one of them I forget what he said, I don't know if it was every year for 4 years or whatever, but you might check every 50, and randomly select and do them, and maybe Jerry can fill in on this, but those people will be selected randomly and tested to see if the nitrogen output at that home has fluctuated tremendously. If it does, then we'll identify a problem early on.
And it's our problem.
Now we
Yeah.
know that they can peeing while taking a shower.
Right.
The only way.
I just for the sake of the same,
Good luck if you can stop that.
Mr. Chairman,
Too much information.
Mr. Chairman, I would add to what Mr. Leighton has said, is that also even denitrifying septic systems are going to have to go through that process and are subject to those concerns.
So it's out of our hands anyway, it's going to be DEP's project. Yeah, go ahead.
I'll also say that all of these things, and I know some people disagree with me, there's going to become a responsibility and liability on the homeowners to comply. Because if the town is liable, and I have no idea what form that will take, whether it will be enforced, but if we're going to rely on anything innovative and alternative, the state's going to want to know we have a system to ensure compliance and enforcement, and if it's down to the homeowner, that's going to be an interesting discussion at a later time, and not now.
Right,
And that applies also to any other system.
right, Ron.
I just would like to say that, when looking at the point that's being, that was raised, there's a degree of risk with everything we're looking at. And so the point is that what is the various degree, risk factors that we have? I mean, if there's a major storm or something and the central system we've had problems with that, where the power's out or there's been some issue. There's a degree of risk with everything. I don't know what the relative degree of risk is from one to the other, but I think that this is a factor.
Risk of not complying, sorry.
All right, but we're getting off track here. Task 4.
I move off of philosophy and back to some specific language.
Okay?
Under item J, it says, implementation program in a watershed. Wondering what a watershed is, because we've touched upon this a couple times about whether it's just the South Coastals or not, but I would suggest that at the very least it might say in one of the South Coastal watersheds or in West Falmouth, because I think those are the areas that are currently encompassed by what we're doing.
You'd like to be that specific.
I think so, at this time. I'm on J. Talks about application of an eco-toilet implementation program in a watershed. Feasible schedule and timetable for broad-scale application of an eco-toilet implementation program in a watershed. And not to leave out the wonderful folks over in the Oyster Pond area, but I think,
they'd be happy to be left out.
I don't know, I'm not speaking for those people, but perhaps you know more of them than I do. I'm just suggesting that the phrase watershed might say the South Coastal watersheds and West Falmouth.
In one of the South Coastal watersheds.
Virginia, how can it be a certain way?
Well, the reason that the next bunch of words in parentheses is exactly that basically the Water Quality Committee would select the representative
Maybe I'm
scenario.
trying to be cute enough by including West Falmouth, because I know where we're going with West Falmouth as being part of what we've got to do right now.
If you're trying to be cute, then that's what.
I want it to be more definitive and not come back and somebody say West Falmouth is not a watershed.
Ah, okay.
Here later on. I want to be sure West Falmouth's part of what we're looking at, because we've got the issue with the plant and the value there and
Okay.
these things.
All right.
Actually, watershed includes 14 watersheds, and not only the ones we're looking at, not only West Falmouth, but the ones that haven't been addressed yet.
Ultimately, it's 14.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay, so you're basically asking this committee whether we will also be cute and put West Falmouth.
Maybe I'm
into
asking
this.
if the word water, I'm really trying to figure out what watershed's encompassing here, whether it's encompassing the entire town, just the South, whether this is a limited group or an
This
inclusive
is
group.
like 300 houses, or somebody said 1,000 at one point, basically saying, okay, you all have to go on eco-toilets.
Could be the watershed for Quistit Harbor.
Could, yeah,
The
absolutely.
way this is written, could be the watershed for
Could be
Quistit
any
Harbor.
watershed.
And
That's
this,
right.
and the sense of this committee is refined that that's what it could be.
Yeah, and that this committee will choose a representative
Okay,
scenario.
then I'm fine
Will
with
it all
it.
be in one watershed? Could be Quistit Harbor here, there.
No, that's the point of it, is
The point of this-
that it's not a
The
watershed.
point of this is to try to do it in a comprehensive way in a watershed,
In
so
a
we can see it.
watershed.
Or in a watershed.
Yeah.
In a watershed.
So
This is-
Right.
To design it for water, not to do it, to design
I
it.
understand design it, but again, you have to listen to what we as a group have to say, we want you to design this for this watershed.
Right.
So I'm trying to figure out whether the watershed's all encompassing or limited, and I'm hearing all encompassing,
All-encompassing.
I'm fine.
Encompassing.
Okay.
And then K, the next section flows from that. If you make the presumption that we're gonna pick a watershed somewhere in the town.
Yeah.
And say everybody needs to go on eco-toilets, what are the obstacles to implementing that?
There we
Could
go.
I please make an editorial comment? It will not include merely eco toilet. We're not going to tell everybody that they must install an eco-toilet, but they must install one of the things that, in other words, I don't think you'd ever get people, town to agree that you must install eco-toilets. I think you work against it if you do that. That there are other things they could install.
Maybe not. At the moment, this is focused on eco-toilets. We haven't really touched on whether, when you come to the point of picking out a watershed and saying, okay, we're only going to use alternative systems, so it's either eco-toilet or a denitrifying system, that hasn't entered the conversation yet. It's out there. But as contemplated right now, it's all eco-toilets.
All right, any further proposed changes in task 4?
Yes, just on this one, but on the same point. There's no engagement of whatever watershed that is, the residents in that watershed, in this. In other words, it's kind of an exercise that's done, but we don't have any consultation going on. I mean, would that just make it more complicated if we picked a certain watershed somewhere and said, okay, we're going to work out this thing and look at it as an exercise, but not involving the community itself?
Ultimately, there has to be consultation, but all the consultant is doing right here is developing a plan. It's not implementing the plan, it's just...
Right, no, I understand. I'm just saying that, okay.
Sure.
Steve?
Also, this is a perfect example of Jerry's technique. I mean, you can use the response of the proposers to this one as a measure of their wisdom. I mean, if they just pick some little one that has absurd demographics, like Oyster Pond, so that they think it'll be easy to do, then that's probably not somebody you want. If they pick one where it might actually fly, then...
Do they get cable TV out there?
No, I'd be happy to tell them what I just said. And they're probably happy that I said it.
For an open mind.
I'm saying that J and K may tell you a lot about how deeply the potential contractors are thinking about the issue.
Okay, so I'm not hearing any more amendments to section 4.
Can I
Task.
ask for clarification?
Okay, a couple of clarifications. Sure.
Who is George going to give us potential easements for the town or access agreements? There could be some standard stuff, but that gets into legal review. I don't know if we want the consultant to actually...
That's something that has to be worked on this
Yeah.
summer.
Yes.
It's on his to-do list.
George's...
So I see your point. Why is it in G here if it's in George's list?
Yeah, I mean, we don't want the consultant to hire some lawyers. It wasn't quite that, but it's the same thing.
Well, this is a plan, so a compilation of what would be required if you were going to implement it someplace.
Right, okay.
I think
This does not have to do with the
Makes
demonstration project itself. It has to do with the
Okay.
longer-term implementation.
right. It basically assembles all of the useful information in one report.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
And it comes at the very
report.
end of their contract after we've had a lot of experience.
Okay, we get deliverables. Oh, sure.
On the very first line of task 4, to incorporate all information gathered by the Eco-Toilet Subcommittee. Is that the new information?
Where did that?
Or is that information?
Task 4,
we
first
already have,
line.
but we don't know what it is yet? The very first line of task 4, the town of Falmouth seeks to incorporate all information gathered by the Eco-Toilet Subcommittee. And I just was wondering what that information is.
It will be the information that's available at the time this is prepared, and this is going to be prepared like in the last 3 months of the contract, so you will have had your
It's what the
pilot.
consultant has found.
The information that's available, let's say to date.
Okay.
Well, okay, I don't think it requires an amendment to go over there. Okay, any comment on the deliverables before we get out of section 4 here?
Some of them follow the outline, like task 3, it's this complete baseline study, and then design, publicity, education, and outreach, and it has 2 different dates. I'm just asking people that are familiar with those tasks, if it's clear what's coming in 2013. I mean, January 2013 versus April of 2013. All the others have one date and it's for that task in its entirety.
Should I respond to that? I think it's clear. Task 3 says, Task 3A is to design the evaluation tool. That's what we're talking about there. The baseline study is the evaluation tool.
So this is evaluation tool?
Yes.
Or task 3A?
That's right, it's Task
Okay, so
3A.
maybe you should
You wanna
say,
insert it?
yeah, maybe you should say that.
Yeah, maybe we should say that, yeah.
In parentheses or something.
Okay, so Wynn's making an amendment to add after the word baseline study, parenthesis, task 3A in parenthesis.
Task 3, yes,
Second?
that's fine.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Got it.
Good.
Anything else on 4?
I have a question.
Sure.
On task 2, I highlighted that January 2013.
Right.
There wasn't a date there in the
Oh,
original text. Is
good.
that the correct date, Wynn?
I thought there was a date in the original text. I thought you were questioning that date.
What date would you like it to be?
I was thinking about that this afternoon. I would not object if we said April 2013, because it may be a somewhat larger task. We're asking to do the technical memorandum by January 2013, and we're asking them to complete a
Okay.
baseline study by January 2013.
Okay.
We might want to space it out a little better.
Wynn has moved
making a
April.
motion?
April 2000.
You making a motion?
That's
Making a
I heard
motion.
it. I heard a motion.
I'm going to second that motion.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, discussion? No?
What is,
April
April
2013.
2013 instead of January 2013 on task 2.
oh, task 2.
Okay.
April 2013.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Got it. Opposed? The ayes have it. Phase 2 is included for information only. Do we need to talk about it?
Okay. So it's April.
Okay, if not, is there any,
Yeah, one question. I wasn't sure if it was the intent in previous discussions to strike the third sentence. However, if authorized by the town.
which section are you on?
Yes, that needs to come out.
Phase 2.
Oh.
I just struck it because I thought we did say to take it out. And that sentence, however, after authorization by the town, if after completion of phase 1, the consultant may be
Yeah.
asked to provide, et cetera, et cetera. I
Okay,
think we decided not to say
We,
anything.
Okay.
we were
so-
going to take that out, that's
okay.
correct.
So there's a motion from Virginia
Sure.
to take out, tell us where again?
It's the second sentence, starting with however, and
Okay.
going all the way down to extension of the contract. That whole
Okay, that comes
3.5
out.
lines comes out.
Okay, motion's made and seconded by somebody.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Fine.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Okay. Any revisiting of phase 1, 2, 3, or 4? Anything in this document before we have a final vote of approval and send it to the selectmen?
I just,
Okay, yes.
I just, again, coming back to deliverables and the date for the design, publicity, education, outreach, does it need to be April 2013? Could it be January 2013?
We just voted to make it April, did we not?
No, I
Yes,
thought
we did.
Task 2 we did.
Oh,
Task
okay.
2.
But which one are you on now? Okay, 3?
Task 3.
Okay.
That seems like it's, we should probably get that going as soon as possible, I would think. So I don't know if it could be January, if you give them 4 months to prepare a program or something, or?
We're asking them to do 3 things by January 2013. 2 things by January 2013. Do we want to ask them to do a third one? That's the only question I have.
Why not?
It
It
could be different people, so.
could be different people.
Yeah,
All right. Was
or
there,
December, whatever, but sooner than,
is there a motion? Just, what do you, give us a motion.
yeah. Oh,
This has to report to the date. If for some reason this gets constipated, excuse the language, this doesn't get out for 6 months, do these dates go up by 6 months?
Can issue an addendum.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can,
Okay, so these dates hold firm?
Put them in now, we can issue an addendum.
Okay.
Yeah.
there we go.
Okay, so I make a motion that the date be changed on task, and under deliverables of the project, task 3, that the date be, also be completed, that the design, publicity, and education outreach by January 2013. It's very close with the baseline study, but they have to be done in parallel.
All right, that's been motion made and seconded by somebody?
Second.
Okay, further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Any other changes to task 1, 2, 3, or 4, or phase 2 language before we? Okay, we have a small presentation, I guess, from Mike on this, is that? No. What is this?
Oh, yeah, I wasn't going to make a presentation, but we did talk about the explanatory table as an attachment. We thought it would be helpful as an attachment.
Okay, has any of that changed as a result of any of the votes tonight?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Read through it again.
No, I don't think anything has changed as a result of what you said, what we said tonight. And I think it was a useful, this was a useful task we went through to have this, I
Okay.
think.
Would the chair like to entertain a motion to accept the RFP as written and amended this evening to proceed forward to the Board of Selectmen for their review and approval?
I would. Is there, we'll just hold the comment till we get a second. Do I have a second?
I'll second it, but I have a question which has come up, and it has to do with some of the boilerplate language.
Yes.
Okay, so I hope it's not too time-consuming, but on page 210-3, item 12, where we get into the intellectual property, question has been raised.
Oh, yes. Okay, is that, were you going to raise that? Okay.
The question has been raised to me that if a person, and I'm not sure I understand this whole thing, but if a person develops some material, is it possible for that person or that company to use it elsewhere on another job, or even gratis to give to other towns, or?
Mr. Chairman?
We're on page 0210-3, item 12.
Right.
All information data developed by the consultant shall remain the property of the town of Falmouth. No other use or dissemination shall be allowed without the prior written consent of the town. Steve?
I would move that last sentence be struck. It was put in there by somebody who's copied it from boilerplate. I mean, I don't know who did it, but I've seen this a zillion times. It's from commercial situations where there's some kind of competition or proprietary interest, and you're paying to have something developed for you, and you darn well don't want it given to your competition. But we're not competing with other towns. We would love to see other people use it.
Right.
And if the contractor can sell it for big bucks to wherever, and thereby give us a lower price, more power to them.
Good.
I
Jerry?
would like to discuss this with town. I mean, this whole thing, I don't disagree with you saying, but if we paid for that development of that document, yes, we would probably release it at no, because it says, subject to our approval. If he's gonna make big bucks, or he or she is gonna make big bucks on this, that's an item that needs to be discussed. This says it can only be released. I don't know, this is, all I'm saying is you can vote it in, I'm gonna bring it up with management. Because this is one of the standard things we're gonna try to put in across the board.
Yeah, I'm going to, Chair, I
Steve.
agree 100% with Jerry. This is actually
Yeah.
very standard language, and the key phrase in here is developed by the consultant as part of this project. So if I have a great idea, that I come to the project and I already have that idea in place, I own that idea. But if in the course of doing this project, I develop an idea while being paid for the town, okay, and that idea gets developed while being funded. In other words, my research is funded by the town. The town then owns that effort, and you paid for it. The last line is, seldom will a town not allow it to be released. I mean, sometimes you see another phrase that says, any use of anything developed for this project by the consultant for any other thing, is completely by that person, and the town's absolved of all responsibility or liability. I would suggest during negotiations with anybody that we sign a contract, if they have an issue around that paragraph, they will definitely raise it, and it can definitely be be modified. But if you walk in, I'll put Pierre Lombardo into the middle of the table right here. If Pierre walks into the room and says, I'm a principal on this thing that has a patent, he's already got that. He's not developing that on our nickel. On the other hand, if somebody comes into this and we pay them $60,000 and they figure out how to modify state law or something to be able to do
got it.
eco-toilets easier.
I got it, Steve,
Okay.
so you don't have to.
Okay.
Okay, is there a motion on the floor on this? Okay, a comment?
Yeah, I have one more comment. And the page that I refer to is no longer the same page, but original page on version number 7, 0210-2, it says, on the boilerplate document, it said, the engineer shall keep himself. And I would say, first of all, it's assumed here that the person that's a consultant is an engineer, or everywhere else it might say consultant.
Okay.
And then it's assumed it's a him.
Okay, can we find this on our version?
It's general,
10-2.
throughout general conditions, starting at section 210, throughout they use the word engineer. And there's some
The
question,
engineer shall keep himself, and then it goes on, and I don't know where it's on the new one, but,
so there are two questions really, should it be him
right.
and should it be
Be
engineer?
him and her,
Yeah.
and then the engineer issue, that's, consultant is just a general term for whoever.
Okay, well, we're in the 21st century. I think we all understand that engineers can be women and often are, and they're often quite good, and we probably are going to hire a good many of them. So revisiting this document to deal with
It's only in one
gender
line.
discrimination is not worth too much of our time, I don't think, tonight. Anybody want to offer a motion along these lines?
So they'll put one him and herself.
Well, you know what, we spent an hour and a half on this, and we're about to
If I
send
can
it to
jump
the
in here
selectmen.
just very, very quickly. I think the ground rules we laid around this before was quite simple,
Yeah.
that we're talking, we as a committee look at the
Right.
scope. We built what I would call the boilerplate around it.
Right.
It rests with Jerry and the contracting officer, or who's ever finalizing this, to change the language. I would hope, Jerry, that, you'll change himself to themselves or whatever in the boilerplate, okay? And we can change the word engineer to consultant if
I'll
appropriate.
be back to you guys.
I would second that motion. Mr. Chairman, I move the,
I think we have a motion before us, actually, to.
I'll second it.
I just have a
Scope of
question.
services.
Mike passed out this
Right.
table, and the question was whether it would become an appendix to
Right.
RFP
Okay.
or not. And all of a sudden, we started talking
Right.
about lots of other things.
Okay.
So the real question is whether, as you all look through this, whether it helps you, whether you think it would help the contractor understand who is doing what, when.
Clearly. You make a motion?
Okay, we've got his motion. Do you want to change your motion to include this as an appendix?
Add it.
No, I'm just, this is a guide, and it's probably very helpful, but I defer about how this gets used right now, because unless I sit here and read it and cross-reference it to make sure it's right, I don't know, we can always issue this by addendum. I mean, if someone wants to come through and check and come back at the next meeting and say, I went through and I read every line, and it's just, it reiterates what's in here, it's a one-for-one match, but
Okay.
right now, without reading it, I don't want to just start flipping things on. I'm opposed to that concept.
Okay.
Fair enough?
Yeah, everybody knows.
Okay, so it's not, it doesn't add anything in terms of substance, but it might have a technical issue that might be raised if we looked at it closer. Okay. So no change in the amendment?
Okay?
We have an amendment to, not amendment, a motion to send this to the selectmen as amended. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations,
I would
Mr. Chairman.
like to thank everyone who participated in this effort, and thank the committee for all of that stuff they did today, which improves it. May I make a statement that if it is possible by an addendum to clarify certain language, I started out by saying there were certain cases in which the wording of certain things
You know
was
what?
wrong,
We voted it,
okay?
and we're done.
We're done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We had an hour and a half for this.
good, okay.
Don't worry about it.
We'll be fine.
Are we on the agenda for next Monday with the selectmen?
Yes.
Yes.
Including this. We assumed that this would get adopted, and so they've put it
So we'll get a
on.
clean copy pretty soon.
It's all made, I'll have it edited tomorrow and formatted and send it out.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Mike.
Pass that as an old
This is as good a time as any to
That's the old version.
say to Mike that you have done an amazing job with every single one of these tasks that we loaded onto you. This was a difficult one. They were all difficult ones. And you came when you were needed. You added clarity and brevity to the conversations, and you produced a product that I think is exactly what we all hoped we would get, and we're very afraid we wouldn't. So if somebody wants to add to that, feel free, because he's here, and I think he's used up his 80 hours, so we may not see him again too soon.
Well, we're grateful.
Yes,
Thank
done a
you.
great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Little Pond Water, we'll go back to number 1 here. This will teach you to be late.
Oh, we should go, wait, maybe we should go through the whole thing. You lose your turn.
Discussion and vote on acceptance of Little Pond watershed sewer cost estimate.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and he has a handout for us. And do you have enough copies for,
I think I've got 10 copies.
10 is good, because we'll,
We're almost,
So
yeah.
they're going in 2 directions?
I'll take one and keep going.
That doesn't look like 10.
Okay.
Unless they got
It's just
stuck
pages.
together. We may have to share.
Okay, do we have any, it's, well, some of this will be the charts on the wall, so it won't be impossible to understand, but it would be good for Mr. Finneran and others to have something to look at.
All right, shall we share?
Yeah,
Okay, Mark?
take this one. Okay, and Steve has one, is that? Oh, no, you got one of those other things.
Steve, you want to just sort of snuggle up to?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can share your, yeah, great, thanks. Oh, I have 2.
Oh,
Ah,
So there you go.
okay,
There you go, take it, I'll share it.
okay.
Oh, no, that, yeah, we have to share it for now, yeah.
okay, Nate, you're on.
Yeah, I remember pretty good.
Attached, well, in the handout that I gave you are several figures. You'll recognize the first one, and then there are 2 additional ones. The first page is the scope of what we were asked to do, and below that are the costs that we developed and you saw in an email. And I think that, you know, the charge that we were given was to pretty much use the same methodology that we had used to develop costs that were presented in technical memorandum number 7.
26,
And we did that, we applied those costs, and we came up with a
38,
construction cost of $26 million for
39.
this area. And then with the contingency and the fiscal, legal, and engineering, that added an additional 15. For a
What is it,
total of
40 something?
$39 million. Should I repeat that for the microphone?
No, well, I don't know, did everybody get that?
Yeah.
Yeah, the TV audience may not have.
All right.
So that's the cost development that's been done, very similar to the costs that were developed and presented in technical memorandum number 7. They were broken out in this way of developing costs for the major pump stations and force mains, peninsular lines and pump stations, and right-of-way lateral pump stations and collection lines to be consistent with the costs that were developed for technical memorandum number 7 again. And you know, the reason why there were those 3 different categories was to be able to consider different options for betterments and the way that these types of facilities are paid for.
Okay. Questions from the committee?
Well, let me keep going with the presentation a little bit.
Okay.
So those are the costs, and the scope that we were asked to do, the first figure that you see is a refinement of the one that's on the wall that was, was made out of a Sharpie pencil to meet the requirements. And the next page is something that I think, of course, anybody who sees costs and wants to see, well, what do those costs mean and what are the assumptions? And this, as as was stated in the scope, the costs are developed for a combination gravity and low pressure type of sewer. And the amount of gravity that you can do and the amount of low pressure which is needed is really a function of road layout and topography. And so using these costs and looking at maps and looking at the slopes that are needed, it develops a layout that looks like this, where pump stations might be located, which areas could be served by gravity, and which ones would most likely have to be served by low pressure. And it's very important to point out that this layout is really only for planning cost development. There's always a tendency when you develop something like this for costing to say, well, gee, why don't we move the pump station over here, and we can do this and we can do that, and can't we save a little bit of money by doing this? This is really to develop a cost that is a cost that you can take into the next phase, which would be preliminary design, and will provide sufficient funds for nearly any type of sewer that you all decide to use. It would not be sufficient if you tried to do this whole area with only gravity. And if you took an approach of, trying to do quite a bit of gravity and minimizing the number of public pump stations, this is what you would end up with. If you went with an approach of doing it all with low pressure, whether it was a step type of system or a grinder pump type of system, then it would be all low pressure. And that would have a lower capital cost than this.
So this is a mix.
This is a mix,
Okay.
correct? Yeah, this is a mix that uses very accepted technology, gravity and low pressure grinder pump, that is a very plausible way that it would lay out with this topography and these road layouts. There are no real areas here where we've had to cut across somebody's yard and take a lot of easements or do anything like that. Certainly, once you get into preliminary design, those are things that you start doing because it saves a lot of money and it makes good practical sense. The actual locations for lift stations are presented with sort of a circle or an oval, which just means that
Fine.
I would kind of prefer at this point not to put something like this and have somebody go, gee, I live right there. I don't want to live next to it.
Understood.
But Nate, what you've given us here, I'm very, very happy to see this. You're basically indicating that there's probably 3 lift stations in this area.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Someplace in this area, it'll take 3 lift stations
Yep.
to pick that up and get it into the existing gravity system.
Now, in your best professional judgment, the mix of low pressure and gravity, was that designed to be the least costly, or what was the criteria that made you make that mix?
Yeah, it was to minimize costs because most people would like to have a gravity sewer outside because it just flows away and they don't have to pump it or they don't have to be responsible for a pump. But the trouble is that the way the roads are laid out on these peninsulas, the road is at the high spot. And then the side roads go off down. So it means that the people that are down next to the water have to pump up to get into the gravity system. And so you can see all of the purple lines, which are the low pressure that have to pump up to the green lines. And,
I'm going to try to say this for you another way if I can, because this is good, what I'm looking at here. you don't want to get to the point where your gravity sewers are getting really deep. The size of the excavation, the amount of dewatering, everything to put it in starts driving up the cost of the sewer. So this is a layout, I believe, Nate, that is keeping the gravity sewers at a nominal depth,
We tried to
Less
keep
than
it
12 feet.
less than 12 feet.
less than 12 feet. So this is something that, in terms of the cost, the bucket, the whole thing that gets done, keeps it at a very reasonable depth. And that in order not to go deeper, those folks that can't get to a gravity sewer, where you've set a limit on the gravity sewer, which is the easiest system to run and maintain and everything over time, you reach a point where you say, if I don't want to go over 12 feet, because it'll get me into groundwater, it'll do other things, it'll tear up the whole road, take longer to build, then the rest of it then defaults over to the low-pressure sewer. Is that's
Yeah,
sort
no,
of the
that's
base
exactly
of
it.
what
And
you
it's,
did.
yeah, it's very well stated. And, yeah, putting in trenches that are greater than 12 feet deep becomes problematic, becomes expensive. And there is even some costs that are developed for, there's some unit costs that are in here for when gravity can go in at only 6 feet, then there's a different unit cost that's used.
If you were to go back, if you were to go back to when the previous report was done and you were dealing bigger numbers, do you have any way to compare? Is this 39 million represent a 10%, 20% savings? Where does that, as we've gone to this next step, because it's always been hopeful as we look at it in more detail, we can continue to control project costs.
Okay, yeah, well, certainly the cost for sewering this area is going to be less expensive than sewering other areas. And so this cost represents 15% of the total cost, but it picks up 22% of the flow.
Say that again.
The cost of this system right here as compared to the cost of areas A, B, C, D,
Right,
E is 15% of that,
Okay,
but it picks up 22% of the flow.
okay, good.
Yeah, so it's,
Which is why we picked it to look at.
yeah, right, it makes a lot more sense because it's all right here. It's also closer to the existing collection
Right,
system.
no, we got that.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead, Steve.
In line with what you and Steve were just saying, I understand why you limited the, what Steve was saying, limiting the gravity source and substituting the low pressure. The reason you didn't go to 100% low pressure was, which I did hear you say at one point would be less expensive, was because the life cycle cost would be more, or because you perceived that people didn't want it?
The capital costs of it would be less. It does cost less to put in low-pressure collection system. And, but most people don't like to have a pump in their yard, and there are liabilities of, of everybody having to have a pump. Most people like to put it into a gravity line and have it go away and not have to maintain or own or operate their own little pump station in their yard.
It looks like you've got half of them.
But you're forcing half of them to do that, and
Right.
you're still not answering my question. If you went to all low pressure, would the life cycle cost, the capital cost amortized in the interest of some assumptions, plus the maintenance and all that, be more or less?
It would be more, because you would be paying electricity at all of those little pump stations. You would have the cost of all of those little pump stations. And so you would be paying a higher cost, I believe. That is probably an evaluation you might want to have done during preliminary design of looking at the
But your
cost.
guess is that this is minimum life cycle cost, and that's why you picked, as opposed to people's preferences.
I'm going to jump in here and try to help him though.
Well,
because
yeah.
when you say that it's going to be less if it was all low pressure sewer, you're probably at some level technically right, Nate, but I'm coming back to what you have to do. The low pressure sewers don't go in without digging. So we're going to wind up digging up the streets, being 6 feet, 7 feet deep to put these low pressure sewers in coming back up the street. So you're really saying, are you going to put a gravity sewer in 8 or 10 feet deep, or a low pressure sewer in 6 or 7 feet deep, with whatever the trade-off is? So while going all low pressure sewer might be a lower capital cost initially, It's sort of marginally lower, Steve, not significantly lower, because by the time you get done with digging up the road, paving the road, fixing any water pipes that get broken, that whole thing, moving the dirts all around, it's not that much different in price when you get done. But when you start putting your sewers in 12, 14, 16 feet deep, the difference between the low pressure and the sewer starts to get much larger, because the hole's wider, the costs are different.
Yeah, Jerry?
And I think you had said something, this discussion on low-pressure vacuums and step steads and the relative costs are really gonna be discussed on
21st.
21st.
Right, they're all
And as
coming.
Nate said, no decision on design is really gonna be made until we get into preliminary design. And this is costing out a reasonable number that we could say, this is what we could expect,
Right.
and hope that it's lower.
Right.
Were these numbers based on the cost of things in Chatham? I mean, do you have up-to-date actual bid
Construction
numbers,
costs.
construction costs, or what were they based on?
Yeah, they are based partly on what we see in Chatham. They were also partly based on what we see in Barnstable and, other costs that we have. And so the answer is yes.
Okay.
But they're also based on more, too. It's a spreadsheet that we have used and developed over time. And when we used it as part of the costing for the Chatham project, and the Chatham project sewer costs came in lower than the estimates, which was a good thing, but also it was a very good bidding climate at the time when Chatham bid as well. And so we would be afraid of taking Chatham's costs and just applying them here. So we took the same costs, and we are encouraged by Chatham's came in low, and so we feel as though this is it's a good cost to take for planning.
Well, so I guess I'm missing this. Was it based on the Chatham cost, or was it based on your model?
It was based on the modeling that we had done for Chatham and then modified partially with Chatham costs. Because every time we do a new construction project
Okay.
and bidding and installation, we modify this.
Okay.
Yep.
Virginia, then Ron.
I'm curious about the low-pressure sewer that runs down Jones Road and then Gifford Street and comes into the pumping station at Shivericks, rather than using the existing gravity main that's in Davis Straits and Main Street. Why did you do that?
Because that main doesn't have the capacity to carry all that flow.
It doesn't.
No, it does not.
Okay.
Yeah, so that flow from the Mara Vista Peninsula is being brought up to a pump station,
Yeah, I see the pump
which
station.
would be in the area of the mall.
Right.
And then from there, it's doing an end around and going to the Shivericks Pond Pump Station, which is, an appropriate place to put it.
Okay. So that's a significant new main
Yeah.
with a lot of construction impacts.
That's what Ron said a long time ago.
There are other ways that it could be routed, and you can take a look. It may be possible to drop it into the Main Street gravity line.
Okay, as opposed to the Davis Straits, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
No, as opposed to Shivericks Pond.
Oh, well, if that's true, why didn't you go there?
Because, again, this isn't preliminary design. When you discharge a force main someplace, you have the potential to produce odors. And so it's when you have a force main, it's good to discharge it at a place where you have odor control. And Shivericks Pond Pump Station will have odor control once it's constructed later this year.
Right.
So this could be rerouted differently. Certainly, we don't believe that there's enough capacity in that 8-inch line, which is right there at the end of Davis Straits.
Wait, did you say a pump station is going to be constructed at the end of this year at Shivericks Pond?
No, odor control.
Odor control, okay, right, okay, I remember that, okay.
What you're saying, Nate, is we'd have to get down to almost the police station or the rec center before there's
Yeah,
capacity.
at Shivericks, yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
Must be all where the line ends. So.
Okay.
Just one question on when we have this low pressure system and you need the pumps, is that like one pump grinder per household?
Yes.
And what's the failure rate of those? I'm just thinking of people.
Why don't you let next week, 2 weeks answer that question?
Well,
The experts
it's
will
true.
Oh, they will?
The vendors are
Okay.
going to be here, and we're going to go visit a place to check on their reports.
Okay.
When we go to Gloucester,
Right, right.
we'll get a real answer to that.
Okay,
If the power goes out,
right.
they don't work unless the individual has a generator and can run it, or a town crew, which is typical, comes around with a mobile generator, a trailer with a generator to plug into a particular unit, pump it out, and then they go to the next.
It takes about 5 minutes.
Really?
In fact, I walked around
Okay.
with one of the vendors today.
Right.
that asked
Well,
for a visit.
when we get to Gloucester, we'll see what happens when the electricity goes out in Gloucester, because that will be a factor, obviously, big.
Just a quick question, what's the amperage of one of those things?
I don't know that offhand. It is very important that the house, that these be designed to not overwhelm.
We're going to get all this from the vendor.
the-
We're gonna get all- we're gonna get all this from the
We're
vendor.
all ready for this.
Yeah, no, it's coming from the vendor. Just
But not like 100 amps. I mean, these take 40 amps, 20, 40 amps.
That's a lot much.
No, I said they're not, I said they're
it's
not,
less
no, I
than
said they're not 100 amps. They're-
I understand, but even 40 amps is a
I
lot.
think Matt's raising a good point, and there are lots of examples where a town has put this, has designed it. The consulting engineer has gone ahead and designed it, and then went to put it in, and people's household panel doesn't have the power to be able to drive this. And it happened in Oak Bluffs, when the whole Oak Bluff system is a low-pressure system.
Sure.
And there were problems there with that. So you bring up a very good
So
point.
it's another cost to the homeowner that,
to
Increasing the
upgrade the electrical
Yeah, to
panel.
upgrade their electrical system.
Jerry, are there any low-pressure systems in this town now?
Yes, we have 2 in New Silver Beach, because there were just half a dozen homes, 2 different streets. And then we have one, I think, yes, there were 2 at New Silver Beach, for 2 different streets, half a dozen homes each. And I believe Mike McGrath, a few years ago, designed and put in a system in Woods Hole area. Those are the-
And there's a number of homes that, from the septic tanks, pump to leaching fields too. I'm just telling you, the Board of Health, we regularly see people come in and they have to have a pump in the septic tank and they have to pump to a leaching field. So they're basically the same grinder type pumps.
Okay, we'll keep going with questions from the committee and then the public, but Steve and then Virginia, and then Ron.
Was it meaningful for me to divide the 39 million by the 1,700 units and come up with about 23,000 per house? Or am I doing something wrong there?
No, that's what most
Are
people
you in
would do,
base 10?
and that's what I've done.
When people say,
As long as you're in base 10, it's right.
when people say billions and billions to take care of Cape Cod and try to sound like Carl Sagan, it's incomprehensible to people. If you put it in a per household basis, $23,000 is a much more comprehensible number, and it can be compared to other things.
Okay, committee and the public, go ahead.
How many houses, or what's the proportion, 60%, 40%, that are the low pressure and the ones that are gravity?
About 40%
40% is which?
is low pressure.
Is low pressure, and 60% is gravity?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, Ron?
I'm just curious, the last estimate you did for Falmouth, the average cost was about $43,000 per house. And now we're about half of that. That's in technical memorandum number 7. So,
Okay, yep,
yeah.
and so one thing that calculation that Steve just did didn't include any treatment cost.
I'm just talking about, yeah, okay. Oh, I see, so there was additional element there.
And also,
Yeah.
the cost to sewer this area, the unit cost is going to be less because
The proximity.
The proximity and the houses are pretty densely developed right here.
Right.
So there is the cost per house would expect it to be less here than if you took a look at the collection system cost for the whole area
Yeah.
and divided it out that way.
Okay, I just have a few questions. I went through, I made a list. On that then, there's also what, about $5,000 hookup cost? Is it something like that roughly?
Yep, it's in technical memorandum, it's documented as 2,000 to 5,000.
2 to 5,000, okay,
Yeah.
so that's not in this figure
No,
either.
it's not. I've
Okay.
kept it consistent with the costs from the technical memorandum number 5. The 2 tends to be sort of an incremental cost of the gravity line that would have to go to the grinder pump. The 5 would be
Right.
for the longer line that would have to go all the way up to the road for
Okay.
a gravity line.
Steve's got
No, it's okay, you clear it. I mean, again, the same thing happens when your house is close to where you're going.
Yeah,
Your cost
right,
is
right.
less. You know,
But that
so
would be
the
about-
number before was an average number over
Right.
all the year.
That'd be roughly another 5 million on top of this, roughly, for all of the 1,700 homes. Another, I do have a few other questions. Then there's the cost of the effluent from the plant. And the technical memorandum number 7, I don't know how it breaks down, but for sites 7 and 10, there was a cost of $7.6 million for both of them. Now, for this expansion, probably, I'm not even sure if they can be used yet. We haven't discussed that yet. But that's another factor that's on top of this that isn't. This is just the location. So I think that needs, I mean, it starts bringing things up. And then one other thing I was trying to understand from the document, and this is also in the previous documents from the last committee and others, is that the estimated gallons per day per house is 170. The the Title V regulation or that section under it estimates 110 gallons per day per bedroom. Do we need to use that in design of capacity, or do we use something else? What is it? I mean, in it says you have to plan for 110 gallons per bedroom. Now, if you have 2 bedrooms, that's already 220 gallons, which is above the 170. And then I read this other report that Steve was kind enough to send me, where it talks about the 28% infiltration side of it. So when you start adding that on top of it all, it ends up, going for, let's say, a 2.5 bedroom average, to about 350 gallons per day as a figure, because you have 2.5 bedrooms. If you have 110 times 2 plus a half is about 275 gallons, and then you have the infiltration on top of that, which brings it up to 350 gallons per day. Do we have to, in your planning, you're using 170 gallons a day, but I see like almost roughly double that figure from using the guidelines from the state for per bedroom and the infiltration concern.
Couple of factors that we can throw in here. The site 7 and 10 presumed a total discharge of about 2 million gallons, I believe.
3.4
Well,
for the, yeah.
but we're talking about 280,000 here.
What I'm saying is, I'm not questioning that.
So your 7 million is not going to be.
You threw numbers out, Ron, and so it's the wrong number.
No, what I'm trying to figure
This
out
study
is
was
that,
collection. We specifically said.
I got that.
Oh, okay.
I'm
All right.
just, the other piece is that you're talking about an area that's 50% or more seasonal residents, so the.
No, I can answer I want to answer the whole flow question, because
Okay, let's
you mixed up
include P.
information, so I want to clarify it here.
okay,
The way you design groundwater infiltration on an individual lot follows Title V, and those are certain numbers for certain reasons, and I'm not going to go through where the numbers come from and how they exist.
Okay.
You design sewers using what people actually use for water at their home, not a number that Title V tells you to use. And the numbers they're using for their flow estimates, in fact, the value they've got in there for the flow, I personally believe is someplace, I don't put a number on it, is high. And the proof is you go out to New Silver Beach, which is a brand new sewer system built to brand new pump stations, and you can compare what the metered water consumption was before they built it. You can compare the metered water consumption now, and you can look at the flow records and divide by the number of homes and see what you have. There's virtually no infiltration. There's virtually, I'll say this again, no infiltration in the system. So small. Forget any factors that are being carried in, because they're engineering factors to be conservative. just momentarily, Ron. I'm just telling you.
Yeah, okay.
There's a number of different infiltration, and so
Yeah.
the sewer's sized that way so that
Right.
that it flows a certain way and everything else, and that's how they've sized it.
Okay.
But the reality of what you have to deal with for flow at the wastewater treatment plant and your infiltration beds and everything down the road,
Right.
actually, if you go back to New Silver Beach, and I've said this before, as a task we should do is be able to get our number down to where it belongs using the New Silver Beach information.
Okay, I'm just, the question is that if, is 170 gallons an average? Because we may have a July and August peak
Let me ask you,
factor.
let me
Yeah,
just answer one question at a
right,
time.
okay.
In the needs assessment, it went into the evaluation that we did to look at, and so I would direct you there because it is all documented. When we looked at this planning area, we looked at all of the flow for residential properties. And we came up with and it was a little bit different for every watershed, as you could imagine.
Sure.
It was in the neighborhood of 150 gallons per day. And we realized that when we estimated what would be an average flow for the future, we really didn't know what was going to happen in the future, because there's going to be 40 Bs dropping in here, and there's going to be some changes and things like that. And so we talked with the town planner, and we talked with a couple of different people in town, and it's all documented. We chose 170 as the number to use for the future conditions. So we're using a number that's higher than the current average for this area right now.
I'm talking about peak. I'm saying July and August.
Okay, good.
That's the thing, okay.
So what I've been talking
Yeah.
about is average annual.
Right,
And then what we do when we size the pipes, we have to size those pipes to be able to handle the peak flow that typically comes first thing in the morning when everybody gets up and takes a shower, and then the peak flow that happens in the evening when everybody comes home from work and uses the shower and does stuff like that. So we apply a peaking factor for that. And so there are peaking factors for sizing the pipes that take into account the variations within the day, as well as the variations within the year, the seasonal variations. So the way sewers are sized, they take into account those peaks. But it's not reflected in the 170. That 170 indicates the average annual flow that's going into those pipes.
right. Well, I was just thinking of the peak flow, which is what we have to plan, because we're a seasonal community.
Oh, right.
We have to plan for the peak,
And
that's.
when you go into the
yeah.
needs assessment, you'll see all of the averaging that was done, and it's typically, we develop an averaging period which is called maximum month.
Okay,
And
Maximum
it's
month,
not
yeah.
1 month, it's actually 2 months, July and August.
Right, okay.
And quite honestly, it's getting even bigger. And so the peaking factor of maximum month to average annual is a peaking factor of about 1.8. And
right, that's what I have.
okay.
All right.
So yeah, you're exactly right. There's there's
Okay.
these peaking factors, and we take them into account, not only in the collection but also in the treatment as well.
But, okay, well, what that means then is that it's like almost 600,000 gallons a day is the flow out of that area during the peak period because of the factor you just gave. Okay, if it's 1.8, well, 1.8 times 290 is going to be close to 500 or something. And that is that's an important thing for us to factor in our consideration of how we resolve the problem and using this particular option, because we do have this. Well, we'll talk more about this later, but we do have this other, the treatment end of it, which
Oh,
you
yeah.
mentioned, but there's going to be that. We'll talk
There
about that
certainly will.
later.
Yeah.
Can I offer the public a moment here, because
Yeah.
they've been
Okay.
very patient, and you're starting to go to sleep on me. Come on,
Yeah, just, I see that,
Gotta use the mic.
this map,
come on, use the mic here.
I just see according to this map that, the north side of Grand Ave North is in the proposed sewering area, so we just doubled down. But the numbers that you had, I thought it was 900, homes on the, Mara Vista, Greater Mara Vista.
That was just in Mara Vista, but it didn't include the part in the Heights.
Yeah, wasn't aware it was gonna be that large a part in the Heights, so it's actually 1,700
Yeah, let me just explain what this is. This is the lower Little Pond watershed.
Yeah.
So it was designed just to be a planning tool. We said, let's look at a watershed. And if we pick one, what would be the impact of sewering it, and what would be the costs, and that kind of thing. But this one was picked because it is a single watershed. If you capture all this, in theory, you've captured 100% of what goes into that lower watershed, according to the MEP people. Now, there's issues with that, but that was the.
Oh, I understand that. It's just a selfish standpoint, because we're like 2 house lots in the corner of this. I wasn't ever counting on that.
Do you want to be in, or do you want to be out?
You can carve that section right out if you'd like. Sorry, I was as large as it is. We can make it smaller.
Okay. Anybody else from the public?
1,700 houses.
No. Okay, no, and that's another thing.
Yes, you need to explain this.
Yeah.
This is all done for the future condition, for the future, and that's why we use that 170 versus the 150, which is existing. And then also too, there's going to be additional build out in this area. And so we have calculated the future flow based on what we think will be the build out that's in there. And then to actually get an estimate of the equivalent dwelling units, we've taken that flow and divided it by 170. And so equivalent dwelling units takes into account the fact that you've got some hotels in there, you've got a mall in there, you've got several large commercial users that produce a lot of flow, and they are very unusual land uses. And as you start considering the way that you might charge betterments to particular land uses, particularly the unusual ones like a mall or a hotel or something like that, you often start looking and trying to characterize them as equivalent dwelling units. And the equivalent dwelling unit just means that their flow is divided by the average annual flow that a typical dwelling unit would use. So this is a way to try to equate that future flow to a number of equivalent units in the future.
But when you then start dividing it from the cost, what is the actual cost per household if you have a regular resident?
That hasn't been calculated, it hasn't been estimated.
Don't use any number, because that gets very.
Well, it is what it is, and obviously, to answer those questions, we'd have to dig deeper, but this is all we asked him to do right now, is to design something around that Little Pond watershed and show us how it would look and how much.
So there isn't an actual number of addresses figured into this, just geographical.
Yeah, no, let's make this.
We're trying to selfishly figure what our share works out to be, or I am.
Understood, everybody will, but understood that this is only a planning tool. This is not a defined area that's going anywhere at this point, except for us to have something to measure everything else against.
So throwing a household number onto this document isn't possible, or even hasn't been
It certainly wouldn't be the last number.
kind of important.
Well, but if a hotel is, let's say, 10 equivalent, I mean, I know somebody's going to say, we're not at the point of discussing finances yet, and that's true. But if a hotel was, say, 10 equivalent units, a not unreasonable proposal would be that they would pay 10 times as much as any one house.
Right.
And if you make that assumption, then then the 23,000 is in the ballpark.
Right.
Plus those other figures that you corrected on.
Well, that's right. The charge is based on the water flow. So whatever the water flow is, they're going to be billed accordingly. So
That's a consumption. I want to jump into this conversation. I originally came out to get on the last committee because I owned a piece of property up in New Silver Beach. And people came in and threw numbers around, and then as it was going to town meeting, people said, this is what it's going to be for each home. And then over time, the number changed. And it never went down, it always went up. And so I think there is a commitment on this part of this committee, or at least on my part, and I think it's been shared by other people, to try to work as soon as we can to a number that there is some level of confidence in. Not an exact number, but a number. When we did the last round, we started from everything that Nate's firm had done, and we had a number that was hovering in the 30s to the 40s someplace. I forgot the exact number. using the same methodology of these equivalent units, okay? We've, for planning purposes, said let's narrow our focus, let's get more specific in an area rather than the whole general system. Nate's come back with these numbers. Steve's done a division by the equivalent units. The number comes out, what is it, roughly 20,000 plus or minus, right?
23.
We're not telling you that's the number tonight. We don't have the treatment number on it. We haven't decided how much the town would pick up on the tax base or anything else. But it's clearly an indication that if the number before is in the 40s, the number's moving down. Will it go up from here? Probably will when we factor everything in. But it's a start. It's an indication of where we're at. That's all we're trying to do right now. We're not trying to tell somebody it's 22,000 or 23 or 18 or 19. We're not trying to tell them it's 40 either. But from the planning process before, going forward and getting more information, we're seeing that the cost of this system is getting a better definition on it. And we still have all these planning units, and it does get confusing, and it's going to take work to get through the financing and set a betterment fee. And that's work we'll do over the next 6 or 7 months.
Matt?
I just want to quickly make the point that the reason this area has a lower cost per unit is because there's no need to build a new sewage treatment facility for this area. It's going to just be an addition to what we have already.
True.
So that's why you had this big discrepancy in the previous, between the previous costs that the committee came up with the cost now per equivalent
You're
unit.
absolutely
I
right.
would actually translate slightly differently. We don't have to pump from here all the way to the treatment plant. The treatment plant's got a fair amount of capacity in it still. We don't have enough effluent capacity, but the treatment itself. But as we move down the peninsula, the force main will have to go to the treatment plant in the future.
Yeah, so you're right. Once you get past here and maybe the next step, if you did the next step, you would find you'd have to add on to the plant, you'd have
Right.
to add on to pipes. There's all
Exactly.
kinds of new stuff that this particular section does not require because it's first and it's close.
Right.
But you're absolutely right.
I just have, I don't know if you've done the calculation or not, but for this area that we're considering, what is the amount of nitrogen per day that would be removed relative to the TMDL of the area? Did you do any kind of a number crunching on that? No. So we don't know. I mean, it's obvious from the MEP report that this would not meet the TMDL by itself, but we need to do more upstream. But according to the estimates now.
Right.
So I just didn't know if you'd done that calculation so we could see what this investment would be doing relative to our neighbors that live around the pond and want it up, to be improved.
Probably one way to get that indication would be to take a look at this.
Yes.
And here's the lower watershed, which is, the area
Right.
that's getting sewered, and it says 100% removal.
Yeah.
And what goes into the sewer is 100%, as long as everybody's hooked up to it. And, then you would still need this additional up.
Yeah, right,
higher up.
higher up, right. Okay, no, I know, yeah, okay,
So that's
Yeah.
an indication. And
all right.
one other thing I want to put at the last map on here, we looked at the last map, which I put this in partly because of Matt's interest in global warming and,
Let's do it.
certainly, and it's also a very important environmental impact analysis aspect of, you don't want to site a pump station in what we call velocity zone, where you've got high velocity waves, which could damage those structures. You would prefer not to put it into a 100-year flood zone or a 500-year flood zone, particularly in light of the fact that it's well documented that sea level is rising and these values will come up. So this is an indication of what you need to consider as you site pump stations, and the siting of these is good. It is allowed to site a pump station in a 100-year flood zone, but it means that you have to protect it from a 100-year flood as well as a 500-year flood.
Okay. Discussion and vote on acceptance of the watershed sewer cost estimate. Is there a motion to do that?
Well, exactly what are we voting on? We've just said that the cost estimate is,
No, we're accepting it for what it is. We're certainly not accepting it as the last word in anything, but he's submitting it and we're voting whether or not we want to accept it.
I mean, we're voting whether he gets paid.
I guess that's, yeah, I suppose. Well, but this first number to look at.
Eric, does this information gets incorporated into the draft comprehensive plan as an indication for this
Well,
area?
that's a fair question, and you wanted to ask that question, and I frankly have no opinion one way or the other.
Well, I did, yeah. I think when I transmitted the revised executive summary, which may have been passed on to everybody, I'm not sure.
But we're not taking it up tonight, so we'll keep
Not
moving
taking
in.
it up. I'd like to get an indication of just how this information might be incorporated into the executive
Okay,
summary.
do you want to include it as an appendix, or do you want to rewrite the executive summary to include some of the stuff, or what's your pleasure?
I don't want to rewrite anything.
I agree.
I'm not
getting
sure,
late.
I still don't know what we're voting on here.
Well, we're discussing this other question, but
okay.
I'm still actually waiting for a motion to see if
I make a motion that we pay Nate.
I move to accept the information as presented
all right.
for the lower Little Pond watershed,
Right.
revised cost estimate, and revised presentation of potential sewering layouts or whatever,
Okay, so we have a motion, do we have a second?
whatever that I just said.
I'll second.
Okay, does it need any discussion?
I
You have some, yes, go.
Yeah, I would just like, I think that we need to be cautious about how we consider these figures, because we're talking about cost figures. And we need to be very clear that these are some preliminary indication of a possibility that maybe, but
Okay.
something like this. I don't know exactly how to word it, but I don't want to give people an illusion after Steve actually had moved from, as I remember, from the area as the prices went up to the.
I wound up with more people than I could fit into the building. I would have stayed there. The house came up for sale this winter. I thought about rebuying it,
Really? Okay. Yeah, but
moving back.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, we're in the field now, we're in the
I know,
Steve
but no, what I'm trying to say though is that I don't want it to look like it's, because,
Okay.
I don't think it's fair to say here's a cost estimate and people go and look at this and consider it. It has to be framed in what it means, which is that because of the proximity of the location, there's indication the cost may be lower than previously estimated for the whole area.
Okay, the
on average,
minutes will
so.
reflect that. Carol?
Yeah, but I don't know, I just want to be sure the wording of the motion indicates
Well, the motion-
what we're voting on
Okay,
exactly.
The motion was to accept the report. Yeah.
Yeah, the motion is to accept it as written.
Okay, and it's been seconded. Do you want to
Well,
further amend it? Or is that what you?
So I would,
I think it gets incorporated into the writing of the phasing and the executive summary as you pull all these things together. This is one factoid that will be incorporated, but it's not a factoid that stands by itself.
right.
Right. I get frustrated because while we're sitting around and we can't come up with what it costs to put an Eco-Toilet in or anything else,
Yeah.
the sewer number's out there, and all of a sudden the sewer number becomes a hot button, and we're all qualifying this button and saying this and saying that, and we have nothing else. We have nothing else in the meantime. Everything else is just marching along without even a number on the table.
Right.
We don't even know what any of these other things cost. This is a starting point. That's all it is. It's a number. I say vote for it the way it is.
Okay, that's the
No,
motion.
I don't
made
want to
and
modify.
seconded. Virginia?
And the other reason that we want to look at watersheds, we're solving environmental problems, and we had no other number to hang on to other than 300 million.
Yeah.
So it was everything. So which clearly was something the town couldn't manage and we're not doing. So here you have something that is a manageable size if the town decides to move forward.
With a 25% contingency, which is reasonable at this stage of development.
Yes, well, I'm glad to hear that. That seems big to me.
Yes.
So I think absolutely we accept the report, and we have a number that's a beginning. And then let's have a discussion about how this fits into the report. We'll see WMP. So
Further discussion on accepting the report.
Do we have the report?
It's in,
this is it.
this is it.
This is the report.
Is there anything more than this?
This is the scope of what he was supposed to
Mr.
do,
Chairman.
and this is the information.
Let's get this answer. Is this it?
This is it, yes.
Okay, thank you. Steve?
This is another way of expressing what Steve just said. Yes, it's not incredibly precise to the third decimal place, but it's way more accurate than what we have for any of the other technologies. And so it makes no sense to make this even more accurate until the other ones catch up with it.
Fair enough. Further comment on?
The report, it says a summary of the costs and flows associated with the sewer extension to this area are discussed below. A summary of the costs and flows. I assume that means that that's what the costs are. And then later it says estimated at 39 million. I think what you're saying is correct. It is a closer estimation than we had before, but there's so many dimensions to it that that when we talk about a sewer extension, the sewer extension by itself is not the whole picture as we've discussed. We haven't discussed the hookups and we haven't discussed the treatment.
For $8,000, this is what you get. All these other factors are true.
No, I'm just trying to
But they weren't asked for and they weren't delivered.
I know, I'm not asking for more. I'm saying it needs to be characterized on exactly what this means, because it says costs associated with the sewer extension. Costs associated with the sewer extension doesn't stop here. This is the costs of developing the service area.
Yeah, I think I can answer that.
Yeah.
The scope, my task was to develop it consistent with technical memorandum number 7. And technical memorandum number 7 provides that information of those other aspects. And we really have to take this and put it into the context of technical memorandum number 7, because this is a small subset of the larger collection system cost, which was $170 million for doing what was called the phase 1 and 2 areas A through E. So that cost was $170 million. And so we've now broken out this smaller cost, and it is a construction cost of $26 million as compared to the construction cost of $170 million, because the $170 didn't include the contingencies. So your concerns are valid, but you have to go into technical memorandum number 7 to see how this fits into that context.
Okay, motion made and seconded on acceptance of the report as presented by Nate Weeks. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I have to abstain.
Okay. Okay. Next item, and it is 10:05, and we have quite a lot of stuff to go here.
Yes.
I wondered, could we prevail upon Ron to hold off on the discussion analysis of Little Pond TMDL?
If I could just raise a couple of points, so just put it, why I brought this up.
Sure.
Okay, and then we don't need to discuss it much further, so when we do get to it, we can. You have two pieces of information, but I would suggest that you actually look at the reports that are online for Little Pond. Look at the executive summary, and I suggest you also look at the full report. And when I look at the two, I have there's a disconnect between, from what I can see, in the executive summary and the full report. In the full report, it indicates that by doing removal of so much septic from the lower watershed of Little Pond and so much from the upper watershed, that the TMDL would be reached. When we go, but it's not clear in there. I couldn't find any real numbers that showed that, except there were the tables I provided. But I don't know where those numbers, where that upper watershed or the Little Pond stream number came from. It just suddenly appears in that table, and there's no reference to how it was arrived at. And then when you go to the executive summary, it shows that, say, 19 kilograms per day is the current flow from the watershed, and the septic flow is 10 roughly. So we have a difference of 9 if we were to take care of all the septic. But the target is 5. So we have a discrepancy here in how we look at the issue of, like, saying the equivalent of all of the septic effluent nitrogen removal will not reach the TMDL according to the executive summary, the way it's written, and it will in the main report. But again, in the main report, it is not clear how that second portion, where it came from. So my question is how to resolve that, because it doesn't allow for us to understand exactly how we can address the problem. And again, it's all equivalent, and there can be other options than dealing just with the septic nitrogen, because what it also says is that 50% of the end load, of the nitrogen load to Little Pond, needs to be attenuated. And so how we do that 50% are other options besides just dealing with the septic load. But again, there's an inconsistency from what I can see between the two documents.
I think we could entertain a brief discussion on this, but as you say, we're not going to spend it all tonight. But any, Virginia, anybody?
It seems to me if you think there's a discrepancy on what Brian Howes wrote in the executive summary and what he has in the body of his report, you should phrase one or several clear questions and point that out, because
I've done that in 2 emails. I haven't gotten an answer directly to him.
Okay, well, I didn't know.
Right. No, I've sent him very specifically, and when he was here, I was asking him, and we didn't have time to go through it all.
Okay. I'm not sure that, that anybody sitting around this table is going to be able to sort out what you've raised. Right. And so I think it just serves to confuse everybody. He would have to be at least the primary source for the response if you think there's a discrepancy.
I would point out, though, that the way Little Pond is put together and presented is the same as it's put together and presented for all the other estuaries. So I think it's a case, Ron, of you getting to the point where you can understand better what's in the tables, perhaps, and how Brian's presented it.
Well, I asked him specifically that.
I'm just making the comment that it's not an issue of reading this information that's only for Little Pond. This information, as presented, you can get it if you go to any one of the other estuaries. It shows up similar tables, similar accounting, similar math, similar breakdown coming across of background, land usage, septic system, et cetera, et cetera.
Jerry.
I suggest that since we may be engaging Mr. Howes in the next step to do some monitoring, you have to understand, he gets questions from a lot of people every day. He could spend the rest of his life answering legitimate questions. This will be one of the tasks we'll have to answer.
Fair enough.
It'll be part of the things, we'd like a clarification.
If you don't get an answer sooner than that, we'll...
Yeah, right.
I mean, he does get a lot of questions asked of him every day.
Sure, he's got 86 estuaries going on out there.
Okay. I wanted to just sort of follow up on what Nate said about how this information gets integrated into the CWMP.
Right, that was...
And I think we need to think about that. And you're our agenda item on the 21st. Well, you're going to deliver the preliminary draft, right? Okay. Will that preliminary draft have the notice of project change letter also? Okay. Will it have the introduction that the committee wrote at the beginning? I saw the executive summary, but there's an introduction that goes even before that.
Yeah, I thought that introduction would go into chapter 1, which is the introduction.
I see.
Yeah, so I thought it was going to be the first part of the introduction.
Oh, okay.
So
that's where you put it.
That's where we're putting it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But in a way, it was sort of a transmittal letter to the selectmen rather than...
Yeah, when we originally drafted it, which I realize is now like 6 months ago.
Okay, I wasn't completely clear on where you wanted to use that introduction.
Yeah,
I assumed it would go in chapter 1, introduction.
It might stand alone as an preface to the introduction, if you will.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could be a transmittal letter too, also.
Okay.
Secretary of Environmental Affairs and everybody else.
Have you already put these things in print?
I've put it into the computer, but they won't be printed out until a couple of days before they're done, so I mean, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's, things have not been printed, they're
Right.
still being put
Right.
into the.
Well, that was the intent around that. Now, what's our intent around this?
Well, I'm going to ask you first, where would you suggest that this would fit?
I think it's, fits into the chapter which is called detailed evaluation. And I think that it is, it's part of the story of the evaluations that were done as part of the CWMP review committee, because there were a lot of evaluations that were done.
Does that chapter include the Technical Memorandum 7 material that you've been referencing tonight?
Yes,
Okay.
Technical Memorandum number 7 summarizes all those evaluations that were done, which was a big body of decision-making
Right.
process that was done. And so that brings it up to that point. This committee has followed through with one of the recommendations of the CWMP committee to actually delineate the area, the westernmost end of phase 1 and 2 area. And has defined this first area to go forward, which was the recommendation, start at the west and move to the east.
So you want to put this in with that section that includes section 7 language about
Yep.
all the costs?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah,
it's just
it'll-
one
it'll
piece
fit
of
right
that
in.
puzzle, okay,
And it's all consistent with that,
Fine.
which
Yes, it
fits
is.
together nicely.
okay. Is that what the committee would like to do?
I'll say yes, but then I'd like to make a motion that we sort of empower either you or Virginia to be able to converse with Nate so that these nuances of where it fits in and make sure the story's in a logical place and somebody in the committee knows where it is and why.
Okay.
Not that we don't trust you to not walk in front of a bus, but you could.
We can do that, but it's going to come here on the 21st anyway, so we will all get a crack at it if we decide it's the wrong place.
Yep.
Is that's correct?
That
When
is
we
correct.
when we look at it the 21st, it is malleable. We can
Oh,
move
gosh.
pieces around.
This has always been a work in progress.
Nothing
But
but,
the description of how it fits into that section on toilet alternatives, how it's actually going the next step from where we saw it in the technical memorandum 7 before. It's kind of a little bit of delineation showing how it evolves next. All seems logical.
sure, okay, good. So I
Okay.
don't think we need a motion, we'll do that.
Yeah.
It'll show up somewhere in the 21st, and we'll get a look at it.
Okay.
Stay awake.
Status of RFPs and technical assistant contracts, Jerry.
We got 3 applicants for the technical assistance contracts. They all bring various backgrounds. Until we get together and select the final person, I'm reluctant to name who the 3 are. I would say that we should be able to have a recommendation to the town manager by the end of next week. There's 3 applicants. It's pretty straightforward. This question of interviewing, and one person's traveling, so we're going to interview that person by phone. He's agreed. The RFPs moving along, some of them weren't quite in, it's a camera ready to go, as you saw today. I'm meeting with, the priority, as I understand it, is aquaculture's first, RFP second, Oyster Pond is third,
PRB or RFP?
PRB, I'm sorry. I'm not sure.
PRB RFP.
And I think this is malleable also. I'm not sure where the
Yeah,
RFP is now for Little Pond stormwater. And I thought you were going to vote it tonight because it's going on the selectmen's.
we voted it the last
Oh,
time.
you did? Good.
That's done.
It's past this group. It's
Okay.
now ready for the selectmen, so there's
So,
there are 2
yeah.
RFPs ready for the selectmen.
So, subject to change, and this is ongoing, some can move up or ahead depending on where we are. I'm meeting with the aquaculture subcommittee on Tuesday morning to go over some, as Steve would say,
Finalize.
nuances and
Finalize.
finalizations. And hopefully, if things go well, it could go on the street within a week.
Okay.
And then, for just my own sanity, depending on when we have the contractor on board, I would expect no sooner than every 2 weeks for an RFP to go out the door.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to have to look at our own timelines
Yes.
and look at your availability and look at a lot of things. 'Cause I think our experience with the technical assistant, which is about the simplest thing you could do in the procurement line, has turned out to be a small nightmare. We're now looking at 6 or 7 major RFPs that could be huge headaches and huge delays. And Jerry may need some help that we may have to go pay for to make some of this stuff happen, because you know, he's got other things to do. He's got windmills to worry about. He's got a whole lot of things on his plate, and grinding this stuff out is a lot harder than any of us contemplated when we started thinking we should do it. So that's
So what
that's
was
for
it?
the
You
future.
said aquaculture, PRB, and then
Oyster Pond.
Oyster Pond,
right,
CWMP.
and then the stormwater.
Well, stormwater hasn't gone to the selectmen.
No, but assuming they're gonna
Right,
approve
yeah.
it.
The last two will have gone to the selectmen on Monday
Monday.
night.
On Monday.
Okay.
So we'll be done with it, except for the sewer design person who has, which Ray is preparing, or going to prepare. Anyway. Updates. Settlement of the appeal of the West Falmouth treatment plant discharge permit. There's a sheet in here that Jerry prepared for the selectmen. The word notes is at the top of it. It's a one-page summary. Do you want to walk through it? Do you want me to? Or whatever?
I just hope it's not the one we had for executive summary.
Oh, sure it is, but
If you got it in front of, oh, here it is.
I don't see it.
Oh, well. This is the worst kept secret in the world, but
it'll be on the front page of
we were hoping to have this thing signed by Tuesday of this week. It didn't get signed, and I just received an email
Right.
saying Kimmel's not gonna be able to sign it till sometime next week.
Right.
So it's still unsigned. I think the first part of this list, basically, we objected to certain parts of the permit as being too strict. Buzzards Bay Coalition objected to certain parts of it being too weak. We entered into negotiations when we were fairly close to a final product, maybe a month and a half ago, and people kept on tweaking words. The significant improvements, rather than reading I think all three of them are probably important. It accepts a reasonable effluent nitrogen limit that the town and Buzzards Bay Coalition can agree with.
what is that limit?
It's an annual average to the best of our ability,
of 3.
of 3.
Oh,
But the
no.
caveat is to the best of our ability.
What is the total?
It's based on, it's 5,000 something.
5,000.
It's whatever the flow is that we agreed to times
Oh.
3 milligrams per liter,
Right, 530 or something.
5,300, and whatever.
Are you talking about pounds? Or are you talking about?
Pounds,
He's
yeah.
talking about
okay,
pounds.
okay, I was talking about.
5,300 pounds. okay.
0.53 times 3 times 8.34 times 365 is the number you're looking for.
Yeah. It's,
What was the middle number?
8.34.
yeah, moving on, it establishes a submittal date of December 31st for the December 3rd for the draft.
Which we don't need, because we're going to put it out in July.
We're going to get it to the selectmen.
July 7th.
And with a final on December 2013. And, that's flexible depending on what, could go early, it could be later, depending on comments. Now, this gets into some of the things that are a little bit more challenging to the town. We can only increase the flow to the treatment plant for 26,500 gallons per day,
What's the total altogether?
570.
570,000.
But the key is that we can only go above 26,500.
Right, that's within that 570.
At the present time.
Is it within the 570?
Right, that's our cushion.
That's our cushion. That's the new connections we can make, primarily within the sewer shed, but there are some exceptions in how, within the sewer service area, but there's some exceptions if someone has a failing septic tank and they're real close, and the selectmen opt to allow them to tie in.
Public health rules govern.
Failing septic tank, that's correct. The Steamship Authority was grandfathered. It requires a plan for this draft CWMP to include a schedule to meet the TMDL for West Falmouth Harbor.
Wait, can we step back for a second? Spring Bars Road project cannot be included, or what is that? Will it be, is it going to be allowed?
It's allowed.
It's allowed.
If
It says-
if the
It's
town,
not grandfathered.
It says
It's not grandfathered, but
But you can fit under the flow.
we've estimated that with the 26,500 flow.
Okay,
Sure.
okay.
yeah,
So you divide 26,500 by something to get, what, around 200 house equivalent?
No, we just made an estimate of how much how many new connections
But
we
you're
had.
allowed to go up by 26,500 gallons per day.
Right.
That's correct.
And to put that number's incomprehensible to most people. If you put it in terms of number of houses,
That's
is it
also,
about
that's,
200 houses?
that's,
Sure.
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 So you can sewer about 200 more houses.
No,
But there's also establishments and things like
The premise is
that.
this is infill. This is people who are already on a sewer line who might want to hook up or haven't before, or things like that.
Right, but still, if you say there's 200 houses, it's way more comprehensible to me than 26,500
Okay,
gallons.
make it 200 houses.
Well, it's what it is, how you interpret it is how you interpret it.
To say it another way, approximately 200 homes, if it was only homes and nothing else, within the existing sewer service area could potentially be hooked up as long as the total flow from those 200 homes didn't exceed 26,500.
You got it.
I think this is where we're gonna have to do some work, and we're working on RFPs now. We have to come up with implementation plans that DEP has to approve within a certain time frame, as well as we're gonna send a copy to the Buzzards Bay Coalition. The first one is a nitrogen removal optimization plan. Quite honestly, our plant's been doing very, very well, and we haven't been using the D-night filter. Well, you had to tell the state the truth.
I know.
We now have to make the D-night filter work and almost de-optimize the operation of the SBI.
Yeah.
That's
This is really inside baseball, but the bottom line is the plant is doing great,
right.
better than any other plant in Massachusetts, which is as good as it gets. And it was not always the case, but that is the case now.
Right.
And they want us to do even better.
But if you use the filter, you're going to ruin the SBI.
We're getting into the details.
We're getting into the
We're getting into the
details.
details. Jerry just touched upon something. They're gonna do something, they're gonna prove that running the filter is not as good as running the plant the way they're running it, and they'll stop running the filter
Okay.
6 months from now.
Yeah.
The only piece in here that matters to us is we're going to put out a CWMP, which we originally thought would be only the south coastal ponds. It will now include the West Falmouth Harbor issue as well, on the quite logical ground that that plant is integral to the plan we have for the coastal area, and you can't ignore it when you're putting out a CWMP. So
Since it's a prime eco-toilet area, we got an answer.
now, the only language we're going to have in the CWMP about West Falmouth is basically going to be a paraphrasing of this agreement. The question is, what are you going to do in West Falmouth? The agreement spells out what you're going to do in West Falmouth. So
Well,
that-
one of the things is,
so
one
that'll
of the
be that.
PRB demonstrations have to be in
Well,
West
let me
Falmouth.
mention that. The other thing that we did already was include West Falmouth as a PRB site. And that
Not
is
the only site, a site.
a site, as I just said, a site.
But correct me,
So-
just one point on that, though. I remember from discussions about PRBs during the last committee,
Yeah.
that the West Falmouth was a huge challenge because of the depth they had to go with that. I mean, that was the
Well, a
estimate at
couple
the
of
time.
sites that they've thought of that actually might make some sense. One is just north of the Sentinel site, which is in Snug Harbor, like, you know the road that goes right by Snug Harbor? That's like 100 feet away, so you don't have the depth problem there. The other possibility would be the bike path, which is just to the east of that, but it isn't necessarily that much higher.
Again, under the PRB evaluations, we're gonna look at.
That's right.
I just remember that there was some depth
That'll all
issue.
come out.
It had to go
Come out.
seven
It-
feet or
It
something.
may turn out to be not a suitable area, but
Yeah,
we've
we'll
agreed to
find
look
out.
at it, and
Oh,
if it
yeah,
is,
no,
we
it's fair.
agreed to
It's
propose
fair.
it.
I just- Yeah, okay.
We have to come up with a plan to remove 30,000 gallons a day of infiltration inflow, primarily in the Woods Hole area, and we're working on that now. We got monthly progress reports, requires the serious investigation of implementation of a PIB in West Falmouth Harbor. We already discussed that. Requires submittal of alternative remedies evaluation to DEP for any alternative remedy proposed by the town before the remedy is implemented. That's
By way of
that's
summary-
almost like double talk, but
Yeah, basically, we're not doing anything that this committee hadn't already suggested should be the town's policy.
Good.
But we're going to do it, and we agreed to do it, and the coalition is now our friend, and the DEP is now, I think, much more appreciative than they used to be of the town's
What we're doing.
forward-looking progress on this stuff.
Can
So
I
it's a
just
win.
go back to the infiltration thing? Could that be a large cost, do you think? Or do you have any?
30,000 shouldn't be a large cost, but we're going to have to come up with a study to evaluate it.
Okay.
Ray Jacks, off the head, idea was $1 million. I mean, it's not a huge thing.
Right.
It's the Woods Hole collection system is more than 50 years old. It was put in a long time ago.
There's leaks all over the
There's
place.
leaks all over the place, and that was his ballpark sense of what it might cost.
Some of the important things, because this is a settlement agreement and not an enforcement agreement, we maintain our eligibility for 0% SRF loans, and
Good.
pretty sure that's embedded in the final document.
Oh, it is.
Okay. We can do those initial 3 plans that I talked about with existing funds, primarily under Article 18. That's the initial study.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
right.
okay, because we had some savings, and we have some other money that we might have to tap into, but there's no doubt that to implement them, we may have to come back for future capital funding.
What was Article 18 again? Was that the repairs? No.
Yes,
Repairs.
$1.5 million
million.
for
Okay,
repairs.
Okay.
And the settlement agreement does not mention, nor does it preclude, the discharge using other sites like Site 7 and 10 and/or an outfall.
But it does mention the possibility of other
It
discharge
does mention,
sites.
yeah, I'm sorry.
There you
It
go.
does mention the possibility of an outfall,
Yes,
and DEP is going to sign it? Wow.
they recommended it. They highly encouraged us.
I know you don't believe this,
No,
but it
no,
happens
I'm
to be
not saying I don't
true.
believe it. I just say that if I read the law, it's one thing, and then
Well,
to see this.
sometimes people recognize that times change.
Okay.
And-
No, fair
Well,
enough.
mentioning the possibility of other discharge sites, you're
Yeah.
saying if one was found that was acceptable on all counts,
Well, of
they're
course.
not
Oh, yeah.
ruling it out.
No, right, exactly. Yeah, no, yeah. Which, yeah, obviously, any discharge site has to meet a lot of criteria.
Because it's a settlement agreement, if we find another site, it leads to a discussion of them saying, we are not going to increase anything to where it was going, but we have this other place.
Right.
Can we put more flow at the plant? And we
So-
move on.
The premise of this committee and this town has been no increased flow to West Falmouth that would further degrade that harbor.
Right.
And that number has been settled on, and
Yep.
any further flow is going to go elsewhere.
Yep.
Elsewhere remains to be seen where, but it's going to be elsewhere.
Okay, well, that's good, because on May 1st, you had advised me, sitting next to you there, that the act, or when it was sitting, precluded anything in Cape Cod waters.
It does, and the act would have to change.
Have to change it.
Yeah.
Correct.
But that's where we are.
Right. Good.
Report on a meeting with Teaticket Association.
How'd that go?
Oh, it was fun.
Okay. Any further comments?
Very, very briefly, there were 21 local residents that showed up for the Teaticket meeting in the cafeteria. A couple of the gentlemen who participated in the shellfish work were there. Ron gave a nice little presentation about shellfish, Little Pond, other things we're looking at in the area. Couple of questions about, the relay exercise. They'd heard the story about the relay from the Taunton River. They had things kind of overlapped. I think we straightened them out on that. And then we talked about, they'll see a couple bags this year, but not a lot. And then we showed them a picture of what multiple bags will look like if we get into the next year or the year after, a period where there'll be multiple bags so they could see it. And they were very positive, and then they proceeded to move on and talk about the 300 committees acquisition and plans for developing the land, et cetera, et cetera. So I thought it was very positive.
I did tell them about
Oh, I'm sorry.
Eco-Toilets
And
and the
Matt Patton
demonstration
had
project.
asked for volunteers
Terrific,
for Eco-Toilet.
terrific. All
So
right.
I think, yeah.
Report on meeting with the Community Preservation Committee. I think we were all there. Was there anybody who was not there who would like to hear a report from those who were? No, good.
But it was just a good exchange.
Good. Actually it was. Review and approve minutes of the previous meeting. Okay, everyone got the minutes in the email? There's also a copy in this
Copy in
package
there,
that I handed out.
Yeah.
I move to accept the minutes as written.
Second.
Wait a second, there was something. I have one, if I can find it. I don't know if it's... Oh, there was something, oh yes, I had
There was
mentioned
one
that
sitting here, but when
in the, I don't know if it's necessary to
walked off.
include it, but then on our field trip to the Gloucester area, that we might consider going to Ipswich, which is 20 minutes away, to look at the New England Biolab's solar aquatic system. I don't know if that's a possibility. I can check with them. I think they do have tours, and it'll be like a walkthrough kind of thing.
Yeah, no, if they're convenient enough, we could do it, that would be great.
Let me follow up on that.
Fine. The minutes, everybody received a copy of. Did anybody have any additions or corrections? Now at 10:30 at night, they didn't.
Right.
Okay. All in favor of adopting the minutes as presented by Carol without a single flaw?
Aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much for this. We knew this would be a long one, because,
Yes.
but I think we got a lot done.
I sent you one piece of correspondence. I sent you a note
Saying you want to be on the agenda.
that I wanted to be agenda next time.
Okay,
Can I
well-
discuss this with you later?
We can.
Okay.
Okay, any further comments or questions from the public? You've been very patient. Thank you for staying up. Okay, motion to adjourn will be gracefully.
Just one very brief, this,
Yes.
I received a copy from Faces of their summer newsletter. I don't know
did
if
too.
you're all on their
We
mailing
did.
list or not. If you're not, I would suggest you sign up. It's only 20 or 25 bucks to be a member of Faces. They really are the underlying force behind the pond watchers, I think, in some ways of helping to keep that going. And their annual meeting is on Thursday, August 2nd. I think if you don't know about it, you can, and I've got a copy of what they publish out. And if anybody wants a copy, let me know, I'll get one to you.
We should. Correspondence. I did send a letter out to the pond watchers, telling them how well we thought of them and thanking them for everything they've done for the town, so. Adjournment, wait for the vote on adjournment. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You got to be quick.
Oh, sorry.
Just commenting on the meeting that we had with about Spring Bars Road.
Oh, yeah.
And they mentioned that they felt bad if people from lower income would have these composting toilets, and it was just, they were concerned about that. Because why discriminate or something like.
Right.
I just want to show you the latest houses that have composting toilets in this area. So I don't think that people have to
Not
be
low
worried
income?
about status.
Are they in Falmouth? Where?
This one is in Bourne, I believe, and I think it's a zero discharge. And this is a lead house, and it has composting toilets. There's another one being built, a Cotuit, that is equally fancy with only composting toilets. So if that ever comes up in the discussion, I don't think they have to feel that they're below status.
Excellent rebuttal.
Good.
Thank you,
Thank you
Hilda.
very much. All right. That's good. We adjourn.
I